Okay. Welcome one and all to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. We got a show for you, and I'm going to let my co-host introduce it, tell you what we got going on. Tali, take it away.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I am Tali Botz at TALIBOTZ on Twitter and YouTube. Today, we have a very exciting conversation between the Diane Yap and Mr. Zerse. Diane caught WIC's attention for some of her controversial, you could say, tweets about men, male and female relationships, and sort of meta commentary on the manosphere, for lack of better terms. I'll let Diane elaborate a little more. So we invited Diane to come and talk about some of those things, and then Zerse is here because he has seen Diane's Twitter and uh, has some responses, has some things to say. So we are excited to see how this all plays out, and hopefully we'll have a great conversation. So we'll start with introductions then.
Go ahead.
Over to Diane first, please. Ladies first.
Okay, hi, I'm Diane Yap. I used to be on Twitter to talk about politics, mostly local politics, stuff going on with the school board, just ridiculous stuff about equity and about race and crime statistics and IQ gaps and things like that. And then, for whatever reason, Inceldom caught my attention. Maybe because I started following like Radfem Hitler. And and so, I mean, I largely agree with a lot of the things she said, and once in a while I'd say something kind of similar to that, and so people would start calling me like the Timu Radfem Hitler, which is fine because I admire her, so I can be like the cheap knockoff version. But yeah, there would just be these guys in my replies who would say the most horrible stuff about men, like, the only thing that motivates men is sex. That's the only thing that we care about. Everything that you see before you, this entire society and every invention, is because somebody wanted to get their dick wet. And it's like, you call me, you say that I hate men, but I don't even want to believe that about men. That sounds horrible. It sounds horrible to reduce yourself to basically a lower animal that has nothing else on your mind other than having sex. That's sad, right? Like, I want to believe in the spirit of men, but Twitter has just given me less and less reason to do so, unfortunately.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet you, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. I'm curious what you think about what is the spirit of men in your opinion, but we'll get into it. We do have one more guest we got to introduce, and we're going to pass the mic to Zerse. Tell people who you are, why who should listen to you, and what are some of your thoughts on some of this. Go ahead.
Well, my YouTube channel name is BaseFZZ. I've been in the manosphere space for very many years now. Influenced many a thought without much credit, but it's all good. It's all good. I've been here for a while. As far as why you should listen to me, I've analyzed a lot of these intersexual dynamics for many years, participated, thought critically of, and I filter in most of my perspectives through the morality of Christianity and the attempt to be much better than what we were the day before. As far as my friend Diana Yap here, she is extremely controversial, I would say, in many different ways. I find the disdain that she displays on Twitter to be absolutely fascinating, among other things, and I think not really conducive to helping anything in other ways. And so I am definitely excited to try to figure my friend out here and see where we actually get better through her content, because I just don't see it. I just see a lot of team sports battling until the end of time on there, but we can get into it.
I guess the first question I would have, and either one of you can answer, right? There's been a lot of talk about the male loneliness epidemic, right? That men are experiencing more and more loneliness, that they're struggling in several different ways. They're struggling socially, culturally, they're being looked down upon, etc. I guess the first question I would have is, is that men's fault? Are men just responsible for being lonely? Like, shouldn't they just pick themselves up by the bootstraps, so to speak? What do you think, Diane? What are some of your thoughts on the male loneliness epidemic? And then we'll just have an open conversation. Go ahead.
Well, I'm open to the idea that it could be a sort of chicken and egg problem where maybe somebody just starts off sort of shy and quiet, and then they never really develop a friend group or an in with girlfriends or and the ability to date or any of that. And then they start to get bitter because, they see other guys maybe going out and having fun. They see how easy it is for a girl to get a date. And then they just start filling themselves with like manosphere, red pill, black pill, whatever ideology that where the leaders tell these young men like, I see you, the world is totally messed up, this is not your fault, and basically it just plays to their insecurities and tells them that there's absolutely nothing because it's something wrong with women. It's because women are hypergamous, it's because women only care about looks, it's because women are gold diggers, and I feel like it just is a vicious cycle, right? It just spirals out of control because what you develop is this like resentment towards women, right? And the more you resent somebody, I'm sorry, but they can pick up on that. They don't want to be around somebody who's like, women are just gold diggers, women only care about looks. It's just tiresome, right? And if you blame everything wrong in your life on an outside force, like, oh, society's, against me, women are all unfair, and it just gives you an excuse to do absolutely nothing but spend the rest of your life complaining that somebody else did you wrong. And that's fundamentally also extremely unattractive. Like, why would you want a friend who does that even, right? So I think
to love someone that's downtrodden.
I mean, downtrodden is one thing, but if it's somebody who's like, absolutely none of this is my own fault, and there's absolutely nothing that I can do about this to change my own situation, then yeah, I do think it's very hard for anybody other than them? Like, I'm saying that it's very difficult for somebody other than their own mommy to love somebody who doesn't think that like they have any ability to change their own circumstance at all. They're like, everything is everybody else's fault.
So there's two things. One, I don't think your summation is correct. First of all, red pill manosphere regularly tells young men that they have to do a thing, whether it's work out, accrue resources, learn game, do whatever X thing is in order to become more attractive to be with women. So it's not true that they are splayed upon or displayed as individuals that don't take responsibility and it's not their fault. Regularly, young men are told that anything that happens to them in regards of being with women or not being with women is totally within their control. Ironically enough, I don't think that's entirely true. I think there's a lot of ebbs and flows to what is within your control and what isn't. But the idea that they go to the manosphere to be told and coddled that it's not their fault, that's just not true. Everywhere in society, from conservatives to liberals to left, right, everyone tells young men they have to do a thing in order to be worthy. In fact, we just heard it here, right? He's like, because they're so downtrodden, no woman would want them. They have to rise outside of their depression. They have to rise to the occasion. They have to take responsibility, and then someone will love them. Well, why can't they just be loved and respected as a human being to begin with? Does anyone ever say that to young women? Does anyone ever told a woman that no one loves you because you're depressed and you're fat? No, it doesn't happen. But for some reason, young men who are alone, you just have to swallow it. You already weren't loved before you were lonely. Now you are lonely. Now you definitely won't be loved, and you definitely don't deserve it. Why would that encourage anyone to change? Why would that encourage anyone to do anything different? If anything, like at least the red pill galvanization of like, you will become someone, you will become quote unquote alpha, you will become a greater or better male is the galvanization. But to me, I'm trying to figure out where the compassion is for these men. It's like, if these men are already on the ground, why do you want to keep kicking them? That's my question.
That's a good question. I think maybe it's a cultural thing. Like, I'm culturally Chinese, right? So like, the compassion, even from your own parents. I said, do you want somebody to love you when you're nothing and you haven't done anything and you can't pick yourself up off the floor? That's your mommy. I think that, like, in my culture, a lot of our mommies don't even love us when we're like that. So when you're coming to us begging, like, why don't you just love me as a person, as I am? It's like, why would I? Like, we don't work that way. So maybe I'm not the
Well,
right
maybe
person to
there's
ask
no
about this,
offense,
because
but
there's like
maybe
a
there might
cultural
be.
Let her
thing in
finish. Let her
addition
finish.
to
Go
the,
ahead.
like, male or female thing. But here's another thing that, like, sometimes you guys want to recognize that there are differences between males and females, and sometimes you seem to not want to recognize that. You're saying, like, oh, well, does anybody ever talk to a woman like this? Does anyone ever tell a woman that she should lose weight or whatever before she deserves to be loved? And you're absolutely right. That doesn't happen as much, or if it does, it doesn't happen nearly as
Maybe
much as it does
negligible, I
for
would
men,
say.
right? Maybe it's negligible, sure. But I mean, that's an intrinsic difference between the value of a man versus the value of a woman, right? Women are the bottleneck in human reproduction. There would be no possibility of, like, reproducing at all because we don't have that technology yet. We don't have robot wombs yet. So, therefore, I don't know, it's just sort of the fact of life. It would be like male peacocks talking to each other, like, how come these women don't have to grow these elaborate tails to get a mate? Like,
But this
that's just sexual
pretends.
dimorphism, right?
If I may ask a
But
question, because I'm very curious,
Sure.
right? You mentioned the value of a man and a value of a woman.
Yeah.
What's the value of a man and a value of a woman, and how do they differ? That I think that's my my question, and then we can get to, and when Tali gets back, she might have some questions too.
Sure.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, just in terms of, I'm not
I had a
talking
comment
about,
as
like,
well.
Sure, sure, we'll get to you.
Okay.
Don't worry.
What order should we go in?
No,
I'm
just
not
talk over
talking
him.
about,
He's easy, right?
say, value, like, you know, in the workplace or anything. I'm strictly talking about, like, from a biological perspective, right? Because sperm is cheap and eggs are fewer and more
Are males
expensive.
only their
And
sperm, or are there also their strength, their wisdom, their
I'm
cunning,
just
their
talking about,
intelligence?
like, in terms of biological reproduction.
But this is what's so reductionist about it, right? Because first of all, one sperm and one egg make a whole person. Even if the males produce millions of sperm, you still only need one sperm. But this also, again, is reductionist to the entire complexity of what a male is to their children, what a father is to their children, from the skills to the wisdom to just the physical protection. Why would we devalue males to one sperm cell because we produce millions when we also have skills and intelligence? There's so much more to us. Why would we reduce? And same to women, by the way. Why would we reduce women to just their one singular egg cell a month? Are they not nurturing? Are they not kind? Are they not loving? Do they not understand social situations better than males sometimes? So I'm just trying to figure out why are we pretending that, like, human interactions is as simple as sperm egg? It's not. You see what I'm saying?
I think you're not really understanding what I'm saying. I'm just saying that,
Right.
like, in terms of purely a biological perspective, in terms of reproduction, that, like, the female is the bottleneck and therefore more valuable. And you'll see it also throughout history that something like 80 or more % of women reproduced, and it's much lower for men. I don't know the exact number, but maybe like 40 to 60%, something like that.
Well, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio, I think it is. So it's like if it were 40%, it would be 40% males to 80% women, basically. That
Something
would be
like
the
that. Yeah.
ratio. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, like it's I guess to the question though, right? Like, what is the value of a man? What is the value of a woman? And I understand your perspective from a biological sense, right? But we surely do you value men or women for that matter outside of their biological capabilities? If a woman can't produce eggs, does she still have value? And what is that value? In your opinion?
I guess this gets into, like, the realm of general philosophy and, like, the value of a human soul.
Well, what do you think is what I'm
Which,
asking.
yeah, I'm curious for the answer myself, actually.
I mean, if you don't
I
think they
haven't
have
really
value,
thought
that's a
about it.
clear answer too. I mean, that's up to you, right? Like, I don't know your
I
mind.
haven't really thought about it deeply.
Hmm.
But if you have
Maybe a
something more
better
specific to ask.
Yeah, well, maybe a better question is, or perhaps trying to get at maybe a similar construct to what Wick is trying to get at, like what like what are the things that you like about men, or that you think, like, women seek out in men because they provide to in a relationship emotionally, things of that nature. I love
Nothing.
how hard this question is.
I gotta tell you, mercy upon me, bro. No, you can't think of anything. Not companionship, friendship, a warm
Oh,
We're
I
body.
good
thought
at opening
Tali was
Warm
jars.
trying to
body.
say. I thought that Tali was trying to say like something that like a man could provide, but a woman couldn't. I'm not really sure. Was that what you were trying to like something that's like uniquely from a man?
That's definitely part of the question, yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard for me to answer.
Well, while you think
A
about
male
it, I'm gonna
perspective.
hold on. Just
Uh,
while you think about it, Zerse, same question to you, right? What do you think about Tali's question? How would you answer it?
about men or about women?
Either
Like, are we
one.
flipping it?
Yeah, we could do men first and then women
I
after.
mean, if I answer a question about men, I would say our perspective is uniquely different than a woman's, right? So, for example, the mere fact that we have to assess danger because we are the danger to each other is different than the way a lot of women will interpret it. For example, in my experience, a lot of women are afraid of men physically, but they don't do anything to learn self defense. Whereas opposed to me, because I was afraid of fighting, I did learn how to defend myself, in physical combat. So that perspective could actually help women say, okay, I need to take charge of my own self-defense, be my own first responder in the event of something occurring, right? Because they oftentimes they don't operate in that sphere of having to be challenged by someone else physically, typically. Let's just get an example off the top of my head. So, I mean, I also think that like this question also has to take into consideration that like mileage may vary, right? So depending on the person you talk to, I mean, you're gonna get different things out of them, right? So like generally as a male, we could just assume because men are bigger, sure, we can just assume physical protection, right? We could just assume, right, that he'll be a provider because there's that social pressure to do so. We could do all that. But a firefighter is going to be different than an accountant, who's going to be different than a live streamer, who's going to be different than an electrician, right? So, and then all his experiences are different. So it's like, honestly, a relationship really needs to be thought of like, what are the experiences and benefits we can get from each other as we experience each other through life, to me, in my humble opinion, right? So it would be the same thing for women. Like, your mileage may vary. If you meet like a prissy heiress, right? Let's say, like some rich, snobby lady, you're probably not going to get much out of a relationship with her because she's spoiled, right? Versus a
What?
humble, farm maid who
Oh,
probably fed
if
goats
you
as she grew up. She
No,
might be a
the
little bit more humble.
opposite.
Diane, go
I
ahead,
would say the
respond.
opposite, honestly.
So you think you more mileage? You
Hold
get
on.
more
Let her
mileage.
elaborate. Let her elaborate. When you say
Yeah,
the opposite,
well, I
what
was
do you
gonna
mean?
rephrase the
Oh,
question so I
okay.
could hear what she was saying, but
A wealthy heiress would probably be far more intelligent and therefore far more interesting to talk to, as well as more
but what
attractive and
about her
healthier.
character? Let's say she is, but if she's a
If she's
jerk,
more
why would you want to spend time
intelligent,
with
she's
her?
more interesting to talk to, right?
But she'd also be a jerk. You wouldn't want to
Not
talk to her, right?
necessarily.
She'd be an asshole. Why would you?
I don't think there's any actual studied proven correlation
Well, we
between
could say
being
the same thing about
rich
the farm
and
maid.
being.
Maybe she's more intelligent, right? Like, we're gonna use like generalities, and we
Well,
could
we're
use them,
talking about like
but
averages and stuff. Like generally, the people who are wealthier are also smarter, and smarter people are more
their
interesting because
their
they're
character is
just able
also
to
more
keep up with
poor.
you. What do you mean?
Okay,
Where's
they're
your
also
proof of
more
that?
selfish. They're also more vain.
Do you have
They're also
evidence of
so
that? Wait, do you have evidence
you
of that? Or are you just going based on
other than the
stereotypes?
experience, yeah. So based on
So you're just
stereotypes,
going big
moralities,
on your own like
exactly.
experiences.
So
Okay.
either we use averages or we don't. It's one or the other. Because if we use the
Sure.
averages of the farm maid, then I can also
Yeah.
ask, where's your evidence that they're not intelligent people? Where's your evidence that they can't tell you
Where
something
is my
you
evidence
didn't
that a
learn?
farm
So
maid is on average less intelligent than an heiress?
how would you know that?
Okay.
So
Have
you
you
say
actually
okay.
done any reading into like
Have you done any
intelligence and
reading?
Let her
yes,
finish.
I have
Diane, please.
actually.
Ask your
So
question,
you
Dan.
provide it then.
I
Go
have
ahead.
like for example, there are a lot of IQ averages based on things like major and profession and farmer any kind of blue collar work is not very high on there.
Hmm. Have you spoken to any farmer?
So it's not really relevant, like what a handful of
I
like
see. Okay.
personal conversations would
So
give,
this
because
is
like
what's
Well, hold
interesting,
on,
that
right?
doesn't
Zerse,
really
Zerse,
prove.
stop. Let her finish, please. Go ahead, Diane.
So like you can't really go too much on your personal experience. Now I know that for the average person that really occupies like most of their mind space when it comes to discussing or how they feel about something. It's just basically based on the 5 conversations that they've had with such people. And like I know that that may be very
As opposed to
salient.
numbers on a screen.
Right, because that's actually how you know, if you want to talk in generality, you can't just base it on what you've seen in your own life, right? I've
Okay.
never seen a
So
narwhal, so that doesn't mean. So
so
does that mean that they just don't exist? Because like in my personal
not
experience,
at
I've
all,
never like
right?
seen one. So
But here's
that's
the
why
thing:
it's not
how is
really
the
valid.
information on the narwhal accurate if you've never seen one? You have to go off faith because someone else told you something about a
On
narwhal, right?
faith. So like you
You
either
would have to. Have
believe
you seen
you
one?
you either believe like in peer-reviewed research or you don't. And if you don't, that's okay, but to say I will supplant that evidence from peer-reviewed research with the 5 conversations I happen to have is not really a valid way of making
What I'm
conclusions about the
saying
world
is,
either.
I'll clear it up then. What I'm saying is, for as much as peer-reviewed research may exist, it wouldn't mean anything if you can't apply it to the actual conversations you've had. If I talk to a farmer that's super intelligent, what difference
Not
does it
how
make
that
if on
works.
average they aren't? Well, let's be
Natural.
real. You say that's not how it works. If I'm speaking to the person, here's the person, right? You know, random individual here. They're a farmer and they're intelligent. But their peer-reviewed evidence says that he's supposed to be average. What am I supposed to do with this information?
It doesn't say that he's supposed to be anything. It
Okay.
just says on average you would
Okay.
not.
But he's not. So now what do I do?
You don't do anything. But
Okay,
you
so
cannot
thank you.
use him.
So
You cannot
so
use. Sorry, excuse me. Just let me finish. You cannot use the example that you have to say that therefore the research is incorrect because I have
I didn't say
found
that.
one intelligent farmer. That seems to be what you're trying to do. You're trying
No,
to say
what I
that
said
because of
was
the
Let her
it's not
errors.
finish,
applicable.
please. I'm sorry for
What you
to
seem
yell
to
at
be
you, but
saying is because of your personal experiences with Eris as being, you know, mean people or something, that therefore it's generally true. So you seem to be wanting to generalize from your own experiences, saying, like, whatever research isn't valid because my experience contradicts the research. But you can see that that's not really truth seeking, right?
That's not what I said.
I wanna
What I
tie this
said
back into
was,
the hold on, Zerse, and then I'll
we
let you go.
can.
I'll give you the mic in
Mhm.
just a second, but I want to tie
Mhm.
this back into the topic at hand, which isn't research. What we're talking about today is
Which
men
we'll
and
tie
their
it back in exactly.
problems, right? So if you can tie it back, by all means, Zerse,
Mhm.
but otherwise,
So watch this, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, no matter what the peer-reviewed research says, in our personal lives is which how humans actually operate. They don't operate in groups or with papers. They operate between two people. If that's not applicable information, you must take the individual you've encountered or dealt with as that person, as whatever information is there in front of you. That's what I'm saying. So it wouldn't matter if we had this for men, women. It doesn't matter. We operate in interpersonal relationships. That's just how human beings function. So you can say it's true all you want. That's fine. Okay, it's true. Here's the problem. I can't do anything with that information. It's not applicable. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm just
Thank
saying
you.
that, like, you cannot use your handful of examples and generalize to the whole world that might not give you an accurate view of the world. That's all
Well,
I'm
neither
saying.
could
I'm
the
not saying
peer-reviewed
that you can.
research.
Yeah, it can. It can. It gives you the general picture.
Except when it doesn't.
Well, what is the general picture of men, Diane, in your opinion, or based on the research that you've seen?
Well,
What's the general opinion? Like, describe the general man to me in America. Let's say, let's keep it to the West.
I mean, before I started talking about this stuff on Twitter and getting
Please.
the replies that I get every day, I did not really think much about men and women and relationships between men and women. I thought that men were generally decent human beings just like women. And then I got on Twitter, and men every single day are showing me, and they're telling me, and they're speaking for all men, and they're saying all kinds of the most horrible stuff that I have to remind myself, like, No, I know counterexamples. Not all men are like this, but I mean, they're
Can you
doing
give
their
us
best to try to
examples?
convince
But it's
me.
also Twitter.
Hold on, stop.
It's,
So, Zerse,
you don't think your
Zerse,
sample size?
give me a second. We'll give you the mic
Okay.
back, but I want to hear her side of things first. Can you give us examples when you say the most awful things? Can you give us a couple examples? Keep it safe for Toss, right? So don't use any slurs or
Sure.
anything, right?
No, no. I mean, so one of the top ones is that like men are not motivated by anything except for sex, and that if they don't get access to sex, then they will just burn down the entire civilization, all of society. They'll just stop going to their jobs. They'll like live in their mother's basement and eat, chips and play video games and not have a job, because the only thing that they want in this world is sex, and that's the only thing that'll motivate them to actually go and, work. That's one of them. Another one is that men do not care about whether the women that they date are intelligent at all. They really only care if you cook for them, have sex with them, and give them peace while in the house. Let's see. Do you want more, or are you amused by this?
I mean, we can start there. I mean, we use some male stereotypes of, just some jock, just some dickhead that wants to come home and just have a nice warm body of a female around to cook him dinner. Sure, that exists. Sure, that's a stereotype. Sure, there are some men that are like that. The concern I have is that we're using the men on Twitter, which I mean, I've been on Twitter myself. There's a lot of just born stupid people. There's some racist people. There's just some, just angry people on the platform. I can't use Twitter as a reflection of how general people outside that sphere work and operate. That would be absurd. Like, why would we use Twitter as the metric of men?
That's really
anyone, really, but men specifically.
You would like to use the 3 or 4 heiresses that you've talked to generalize to all such things, but I cannot
Well,
use,
it's not my experience, it's other people's experience.
The men that I've talked to on Twitter to generalize about men. So, like, do you see the contradiction there, or?
Yeah, so let's clear this up, right? So, if Twitter as a sample has, by everyone, it includes angry racist people, it has the worst people, that's the whole collection, they're the worst, right? And you go there and you see that, you're also not filtering a perspective of men outside of that. You're using Twitter. Conversely, I have had pleasant experiences with heiresses. See what I'm saying? So I can filter it with positivity as well as filter it with the other stereotypes I've encountered. So my perspective is balanced by the multiple different experiences of people I've had, whereas yours is only balanced on, as you say, what you've experienced on Twitter. How many males have you encountered that aren't like that on Twitter, just in your daily life, just in your friendships, your brother, your dad? How many males you've encountered who aren't like those on Twitter?
I don't know men like Twitter men in real life, or in real life they aren't. Well, so what the Twitter men have told me, which is very interesting, is that all men feel this way. They just won't tell you to your face. They'll tell you anonymously on
maybe
Twitter.
They're wrong.
But they secretly feel this way, and they're just pretending they don't feel this way, right? So, of course, I personally do not know men like this in real life, but maybe the Twitter men are right and they're all just hiding it from me.
Well, why would you believe that they're right about the nefariousness of males? Why would you believe that?
I'm saying it's possible because so many men on Twitter are vehemently telling me, trust me, all men feel like this. The only men who say they don't, they're just like hiding it. They're lying to get into your pants, blah, blah, blah. So believe me, this is all men. It's like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Okay. So Diana, hold on, sorry, Tali wants to get in here. Tali, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a question. It sounded like right at the beginning, I thought this was about to be like so civil that we'd have nothing to talk about, because I heard like immediate agreement from both of you, which is basically like, it's obviously men have to, perhaps women too, but men have to do something. They have to take an active role in improving the material reality of their lives, which is going to increase their likelihood of finding a mate and then ending up happily ever after, right? So I heard you both say that, and I believe that you both believe that. And Zerse, there's an obvious truth to what you're saying, that this is one aspect of the manosphere or the red pill or whatever we want to call it. And you said you've been in this space for a long time. There seems to be some type of breakdown, because the same men who are responding to Diane's admittedly inflammatory tweets are the ones claiming at least to ascribe to these different things. They are learning many of these talking points from the manosphere. And while the manosphere, I think there is obviously some emphasis on sort of self-improvement, there's also a lot of psychoanalyzing of women. And I think some of it is true. I think some of it's true. I found like watching the Whatever podcast, for as like silly as it is, you see really obvious kind of cringe patterns that women do because because of sort of social influence, like, you know, the way
Tali, they're selecting a certain type of woman. You understand that, right? Like, yes, they're selecting the people
yes,
who will act like that.
Only
to a certain degree.
Just like I would argue, Diane, you're selecting those guys when you make your inflammatory tweets. You are basically, you've baited the hook, you've cast it out into the water, and then you're surprised when a bunch of them bite, right? Like, that's kind of like a self-selecting thing, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
In the comments
trolling,
of like
fair,
Rad Femme Hitler's posts, and like she has nice men who agree with her, and I have like the dregs of society. So I don't know.
You're
maybe
inflammatory
her style is a lot better than hers. It's just a lot better than me. But like I feel like we cover a lot of the same ground, and I don't know. Maybe she says it with a better tone. Maybe she's just cuter, so there are more people
quite
who want to be nice
inflammatory
to her.
too.
So I don't really know what the difference is, but when
yeah.
I look at her replies, like they're not. I mean, there's seems to be more self-aware men who like her because they're like, oh yeah, I think you're right actually, you know. And my goal is that one day I'll get more of that and less of the, you know.
What do you hope to? What type of attention do you hope to get though? Is my question. Because I can read some of these tweets and I'm just like,
yeah, sure. Do what you want.
Like, for example, right? Like this was like 50 minutes ago, right? Or
yeah. What's
too many men think I am against them perving on little girls as young as 8 because I'm jealous of the attention. On the contrary, I find sexual attention repulsive. I have since I was 12 when men first started directing their perverted desires at me. Now, this is crazy, right? You're
Why is it
implying.
Crazy?
I'm gonna tell you
ask
why.
any
I'm
woman.
telling you why. You asked the question. I'm gonna tell you why. You're implying, right, that PDF files is the norm, that's the natural state of being a male, and that's what you're against. You don't think that there's something inflammatory about that implication from go?
I really don't care about what's inflammatory. I care about what's true. So if you look, I had a post
do you
earlier
think that
today.
That's true?
Absolutely.
That males okay, so that's a different conversation, right? Because like you believe that generally males operate like PDF files, generally.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
You know what?
Diane,
Diane,
do you actually believe that? Because my impression of reading your tweets and reading the responses is that people read what they want to read into what you're saying, and in my opinion, I think you are like skilled at crafting something that leaves some ambiguity. But like, for example, like in you reading that tweet, I didn't hear where Diane said that all men are PDF files and are interested in.
But Tali, she just said it now.
And then she did.
Right, I know. Which is why I interjected to say, Diane, do you actually believe that? I don't.
I mean, okay, like, so it depends on the definition, right? So I had a long ass tweet about this earlier today, where men like to quibble about the definition because they, you know.
So are you talking about a PEBA file? I don't know the term.
They want to quibble about it because so like
categories.
Legally speaking, a child is somebody who's like under the age of 18. Legally speaking.
Well, that's a minor.
That's what
legally that's a minor.
Minor,
so a minor
child,
can be 17,
whatever.
16, 15. Prepubescent would be under the age
I'm not
12,
trying to use puberty as the line here because puberty starts
that's
earlier.
What the word means though. Like to be a PDF file is to be attracted to prepubescent
The definition,
children.
No, that's not true.
Okay, we are going
legally.
Yeah, go ahead, finish. But we are going. I
mean, the dictionary definition only says.
No, we don't have to. We don't have to be stuck here. But like, I just wanted to read the tweet to get the concept that you are being inflammatory, and I don't understand what you hope to get from that. we don't have to get into the specifics, right? Because like the actual honest point is, what are you hoping to get from saying stuff like this?
And not only that, I do want to answer you to answer that, but I'm curious now, right? Like when you think that you honestly think, and I'm Diane, Tal, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Diane, Tali. I don't know why. All women look the same to me. Okay,
they're right next to each other.
Tali, right? Like when Tali asks you, do you actually believe this? I'm really. So if you saw a man coming down the street, right, just at a park or at a beach or at wherever, right, in the mall, it doesn't matter. They're walking down the street. And do you, if I gave you $100 if you guessed right, that they would be, what was it, perverted towards underage women? By underage, I mean anyone under 18. That man would do something that would be like hit on them or approach them for sexual reasons. Do you think that on average that man would do that? Does that make sense?
If we include like leer at them, then yes, on average, yes.
Leer at them. Interesting.
It means to stare at them for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
So, like looking at their obviously like at their various body parts and like thinking, yeah, I would hit that. Then like I would think absolutely at least half. Yeah, for sure.
Half. Okay, interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Like, isn't this like frequently an argument between men and their girlfriends that they just can't help but like look at women and their bodies or whatever?
Those men are lying.
Yeah, but
are they? And then the guys who complain about women dressing like a certain way at the gym, it's like, oh, I can't even concentrate. I can't work out. These women walking around nearly naked, like I just can't do. I can't function. I need a male only gym.
Themselves, I would say. I would say that they're overreacting.
They're telling on themselves. They're like, we have absolutely no self-control. We can't redirect our own attention. Like we're just like driven.
But so I'll tell you what it is, right?
Urges,
it is the case, right? That like when we see attractive, I think this is generally true of males, that our attention is going to switch to them, right? But the idea that you cannot focus anymore, that's a personal problem. I'll give you that, Diane. That's a personal problem. There's something wrong with that guy if he's operating like that. However, like if we see, oh, okay, you keep it moving, right? That's how a normal person should operate.
Sure.
So I'll give it to you. Like those guys, they're crazy. They're doing too damn much. In my
humble
opinion.
Like the child thing, like it's absolutely possible that it's just a handful of guys that are doing this to all of the underage girls. But if you just like ask on Twitter or ask your friends, when is the first time some guy tried to hit on you, just a stranger tried to hit on you in the street or wherever? How old were you? Ask any woman, how old were you the first time some random stranger tried to hit on you? I was 12. And like today, I still look like maybe I could be 12. But when I was 12, I really looked like a child. And this man didn't just hit on me. He followed me for like 3 blocks, asking for my phone number and like talking about my body. Okay? It's fucking disgusting. And that's why I say the things I do about how we really need to stop trying to normalize guys like being sexually attracted to children just because maybe they've hit puberty. They're still children. I was in middle school. Okay? It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. So, now, I'll corroborate that.
Tali has a response.
Yeah, so I think I find this conversation really interesting because I feel like what Diana is saying, there is a certain portion of the manosphere red pill. Some people who I like enough, I find interesting enough, who say just as much. Now, they're not talking about 8-year-olds, and I'm sure they themselves would clarify this, but they talk about women's peak fertility being like when they're like very young, basically like... Yeah. No.
When they hit puberty, they're like as soon as she hits puberty, then she's fair game. She should be fair game.
But
then,
I'll be honest,
call that wood chipper
I don't really hear people.
Okay, right? Like people were saying that are wood chipper fuel. Let's just be clear, right? Like,
I don't really hear people saying like right when she hits puberty, but I certainly hear like the 16-year-old thing. And to as the other hashtag woman on this panel, it's true. I was being hit on by like adult men when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact first time. I don't remember the exact first time. And I think also, like, women react differently to this, right? And yes, when there's a certain, if you're really young and like you're not sexually awakened at all, that's one thing. It's just going to be a really uncomfortable experience. But there's also a truth in that, like, women, I think, feel disgust about sometimes male sexual attention if they are disgusted by the man, if they're not attracted to him, if they also circumstances and things like this that play into it. But I guess I feel like a lot of these things that Diane is saying do actually come out of the mouths of people in the manosphere, even if they're not trying to say it, even if they're not trying to say it with the same moral loading. And I don't
Tali-
think it needs a moral loading. I think there
Well-
I think there are evolutionary reasons.
Mhm.
I think there are clear evolutionary reasons for men to be attracted to very, very young women.
Okay.
And
here's
there
the
are reasons
problem.
why we
I
find that
do wanna hedge
disgusting in
off
our
here.
modern society, where people
I-
are living much longer, maturing slower, going through puberty younger. So all of these factors come together, and it makes it really weird that adult men are potentially naturally attracted to very, very young.
See, but this is the
girls.
problem. The issue is we have to take something into consideration, right? Now, a lot of people are going to wig out and think this is weird, but this is the reality. And I think that this is actually extremely important for young women in general. And that is, unfortunately, there is an intersection in between when a woman goes through puberty and her looking like an adult female, right? It's entirely possible that some of these ladies look a lot older than you would initially realize when you first see them. It's entirely possible. And because that's the case, we have to be clear on, well, did he think that this was a 15-year-old or did he think that this was a 20-year-old? Because if he's wrong, then that means he's wrong about what he thought she was, right? He's not wrong in his attraction. If he's thinking that's an adult female, then we have to have the grace and say, okay, well, hold on. He shouldn't have talked to her, but he shouldn't have talked to her in retrospect, not in the forefront, right? So my thing is,
No,
and I want to
fucking
say, and I
disgusting.
was
This is
saying,
why we
now
need to
here's the
keep
thing.
that moral
I
thing
want to
against
cooperate. Now
pedophiles.
here's the thing. So check this out. I want to cooperate this because between the two ladies, I've had conversations with women like this too, where very consistently they say the first time they've been approached was 12 to 13, right? And I completely understand that, especially as a formative experience, right? Like you are a 12-year-old, right? You are a 13. You only see the world that way. And now randomly you get smacked with sexuality. You don't know how to deal with that. And I understand completely that that's traumatic. I think as men, we can't take that away from young women. But I think this is where women have to have grace, because as much as I can understand that, you guys also have to understand we don't see your age, we don't see your ID card, we don't know anything. And we too are also just bombarded with the fact that we're sexually attracted to you. So there has to be a world where we can say, yeah, that happens a little too much. But we also have to say, well, is it because, again, that's the thing. Is it because he thought you were 13 or is it because he thought you were 18? Those are two different things. And I think that's where the conversation has to go. I think we can have grace here for each other, because I'm with women. I get it. I can't take that away from them. I can see why that's traumatic for them, really.
Okay, respond, Deanna.
I think that it's the opposite, that we need to be, I mean, there's like huge taboos against doing things like having sex with a corpse, and we really need to enforce an extremely strong,
You're gonna summon
like,
Lactoid, but go ahead, please continue.
we need to have an
Argue for
extremely strong taboo against men going after little girls.
But we
I was
do.
12. I did not. No, it's not. It's not nearly strong enough, because here you are saying that women
But we have
need to
pedo
give.
catchers right now. We
Just
do.
Hold on,
let me
her
finish.
Let her finish, please.
Let me finish.
Mhm.
You're here saying, oh, we should show men grace. Oh, they don't know how old you are. It's like, if they even think you could be underage, they just shouldn't approach you. Tali
that's
got
my
approached when
point.
just let me finish. Can you just stop interrupting me? Like, even if it's possible that she could be underage, they should just, like, stay the fuck away, because that's disgusting pedophile behavior. I was 12 years old, and it was obvious I was 12 years old. I have always looked young. I did not have any, like, secondary sexual characteristics, and I had a backpack and was walking, like, 2 blocks from the middle school, okay? And there are a lot of other stories from women that I've talked to on Twitter that are the same. They were in their middle school uniforms. They were obviously coming from school with a backpack. They told the guy, hey, I'm 12 years old, leave me alone. and the guy would continue. Okay, so there's not nearly a strong enough taboo against pedophiles. And here you are saying, oh, women should just give men grace because, you know, maybe she looks older. No, that's fucking disgusting. We should not be giving men an ounce of grace on this, because why? So that they can go around and, oops, I traumatized a 12-year-old girl today. Oh, too bad. You know, like, I'm attracted to what I'm attracted to. Absolutely not. No, it's fucking disgusting, and men should be reminded of it every possible chance we have.
So the problem is that you extend this to all males as if this is the case for all of us. Number one, it's
Right?
not.
Well, why are you making
Number
excuses
two,
for them then?
it's not an excuse. If that person was told, "Hey, I'm 12," and they continued, fuck that person. Fair. I'm not defending that person. But if the person is told, "Hey, I'm 15," and he says, "My bad," what are we supposed to do?
Well, he should update and be like, well, maybe I'm wrong, and I should, like, estimate ages a little differently.
And that's
No,
I'm
hold on,
being
hold
a
on,
fucking
I-
disgusting person perving on children.
This is
Okay,
an
so
important
what's the
question to
difference
ask her,
then?
because she
What do you
mentioned that
mean?
we need to up the taboo, up the
Yeah,
disdain we have for men who do this.
absolutely.
So my question
Yeah,
is,
that's what
what
I'm
would you
trying to
want to
do.
happen? Well, like, give me an example of what you would want to happen. Say I won't use anyone here. Say Soy
They should
Pill.
be attacked
Okay,
and
say Soy
recorded.
Pill was going around and
Why
he
him?
saw a woman at the beach, and she had pretty strong secondary sexual characteristics. He started chatting her up, flirting. Hey, can I get your number? How you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm 16. And he's like, oh shit. And then he stops. What should happen to him?
You should just update and stop,
Okay,
like, going after girls that look that
socially.
young.
So nothing
And you
should happen
agree.
to him socially.
Socially, people should be like, you're fucking disgusting. Like, stop going after little girls.
But aren't they already? See, this is what
No,
concerns
they're
me.
not. No, they're not.
But,
Because, like, the guys are
Diane.
always making excuses for each other. I'm answering your question. You said, aren't we already? Don't we already have this taboo? No,
I can
the
give you
fucking
examples.
don't.
Go ahead.
Look at all of my replies. They're like, oh, it's not really pedophilia because they're, pubescent, so it doesn't count anymore. And it's like, girls go through puberty
by
as early
definition,
as
but
8
regardless.
now, so that's nasty. Like, that is still a child. An 8-year-old, just because she's gone through puberty, you're gonna say that's not pedophilia?
But that's retrospective. See, the problem, here's the thing. The problem
What?
is it's retrospective. If you have the knowledge, for example, there are a whole bunch of different
she did a
hunting
trick on
channels
you,
right now,
Zerse.
right?
You're gonna fall into a trap. So she said 8. Obviously,
I know
we
what she
know when
said.
a girl is 8. Like, that's obvious. But we're talking about situations where it's not obvious and the girl is like 17 and a half or some shit.
Okay, so
But
how
right
do you
now,
know
I'm
the
commenting
difference
on-
between
hold on.
it's obvious versus a guy just says it's obvious so he can perv on little girls?
Yeah, but here's
Because a guy
okay,
can always just say,
okay.
like, it's not obvious. She looks older.
That's
like,
not going to
I
fly in
totally
court.
thought
No,
she was
so
18.
number
No,
one,
if she's
that
saying
doesn't fly in
if he's
court.
hanging
Never
out
gonna
to
make
high
it to
school,
court.
obviously, if he's hanging out, there
Yeah.
are contextual clues we can use to make this kinds
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
decisions.
like the guy who followed me hanging
Yeah.
out near a middle school.
Wood
Yeah,
chipper
fuck
fuel.
that guy.
I'm not.
Like,
Like I said,
we know-
that guy is a bad dude. He should be
Yeah.
not only
Yeah,
socially
but, like,
stigmatized,
everybody who's
but
making-
legally
who's, like,
stigmatized.
Everybody
Like,
who is, like,
stigmatized,
sort
legally
of saying, oh, the puberty, like, girls just look older than they are. You guys are all trying to, like, make it easier for these perverts to go after little girls with no
Listen,
consequences.
Wrong. The consequence is the
Yeah,
criminal court
yeah.
system. We already
You're
have a
trying to
criminal
make
court
it-
system. We
You're trying to
already
make it
catch
socially
these people.
acceptable. You're trying to make
Except
it
we're
socially
not.
acceptable. What he did wasn't a crime. He was just talking to me. He was just walking down the street
Okay,
after me.
so-
Should this
all right.
happen to every little girl?
He was
Because, like, there's
propositioning
nothing
you.
the
That
court
is a
system
crime, I
can do
believe.
it.
You can't proposition
yeah.
minors. That's a crime.
I mean, he asked me
Actually,
for
fair
my
enough.
phone number. Is that a proposition? I don't know, but
From the way you describe it, it seems.
See,
like it
but
was.
this is my concern, Diane. I'm giving you in the whole of what happened to you, right? I'm not even going to challenge it, right? But the concern is, how do we apply that going forward to other people? If the person knows that this is a young lady, then easily fuck that person. There's something wrong with him. But if the person doesn't know, what are we supposed to do?
like I said, we should absolutely still shame people for not knowing all of the time and going after young
No.
girls. Like, I think there are people with patterns who don't know that a girl is underage, and it's fucking
So
nasty, and we shouldn't be making excuses for them. That's it. Like,
so
I just see
so
men
you
all
know
over
what?
the place trying to make excuses, trying to make it more socially acceptable to not know. Fuck that, dude. You guys are nasty.
It's not. It's the concern that I have is that you're using this as one of your pillars or foundational beliefs to have a disdain for men. And the reason why I have to counter
Cause and
that is
effect.
because
Cause and effect reverse.
it's not applicable to most males. It's not reasonable to believe this. And while it is true, your experience is your experience, it's not something that we should apply or could apply consistently. Also, you're incorrect about the way we treat PDF files. People lambast and hate men that talk to just 16-year-old girls, let alone 8-year-old girls. That's just also just not true socially. So it's not true. I can't accept that is how general society feels about these men. It's not true.
I mean, all over Twitter, there are guys trying to quibble about what it means to be a pedophile. They're like,
Diane,
oh,
But Diane, there's also
Zerse,
videos
let
of
me
people
please,
attacking them
please,
physically.
Please let me do this, right? Diane,
Okay, go ahead.
right? You
Yeah.
had a conversation in this conversation earlier with Zerse where he brought up his experience with wealthy heiresses, and you were like, hey, you can't make any conclusions based on those single experiences that you're having because they're anecdotes. I would say that the same is true for the people who are replying to you on Twitter. You can't draw any meaningful, realistic conclusions from what Twitter shitters say. And I worry
yeah, but it's
that you're doing
also
the same thing
true.
that you're condemning Zerse
It's not
for.
it.
Why is it
It's
different?
not the
Why is what you
whole.
doing
That's
different?
the whole of the reason why I think this is a problem. Okay, like it is absolutely true, and Tali said this earlier, and I agree with her that like men are attracted to women who are showing signs of fertility, right? Who have secondary sexual characteristics, who have gone through puberty, they've gotten their period, and now they're technically fertile. They can technically get pregnant and have babies. And that is happening earlier and earlier and earlier, starting as early as 8 in the United States now. Okay? So that is just a biological fact that men are attracted to secondary sexual characteristics on women. I don't think anybody here is arguing with that. And it also, nobody is arguing with the fact that women are going through puberty earlier and earlier, starting as early as 8 in the United States. So those two facts together, I'm not just basing my opinion on like whatever the Twitter people are saying. I'm basing my opinion on those two things together, which nobody here is
I
denying.
will say
So
that, yeah.
the conclusion is that more and more men are feeling sexually attracted to younger and younger girls. And why are we saying, oh, well, post-pubescent versus prepubescent, that makes a huge difference. It's like she's 11 though, just because she's got boobs and she's been through she has her period. That makes it
Diane,
okay
you're
to
being
curb on her
unfair.
because
95.
no, I'm not.
I'll
How
make
am I
the
being
I'll make
unfair?
the I guess the I haven't looked at a study for this, so perhaps I'm wrong. But I would venture a guess that 95% of men, if they find out a woman is under 18, it triggers, at least in me,
Disengage.
a disengaged kind of a response, like right, like a disgust response. In fact, right, like, oh, you're on yuck, and then we move on. Right now, it's true. If you're going and you're just looking and you see a woman and a girl and she's at the ball and you look and she looks older than she is, you being like, oh, and then she's talking about she's in high school. Okay, no, and then you move on. Right, that's how that works. And I don't know. I think that's how it should work. I think that the man who knows or has a good reason to believe that a woman is under 18 who continues to pursue her should be dealt with, right?
Yeah, fuck that guy. Yes, that person is a problem.
Yeah, the full gamut, right? But I don't buy your conclusion. Is all I'm saying.
What do you mean? What's my
buy your
conclusion?
conclusion.
Which conclusion do you not buy?
Sure. The conclusion that you're making, that you're saying that more and more men are actively seeking out younger women who are under 18 to purposely predate upon them.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like the conversations that we're having here and on Twitter are men trying to say like, oh, well, he just didn't know. They're trying to make it kind of okay that guys are perving on younger and younger girls because biologically they have hit that puberty line, right? They're like,
but
oh, it's
Diane,
not pedophilia because she's hit that line. She's not prepubescent anymore, so it's fine. It's not fine,
no,
guys.
Diane,
Let's not argue about it. You're still a
you're
pedophile.
you're jumping to the it's fine when really it's what I said. Have grace. You jump to they're saying no, that's how it should be. No, they're saying take a pause. He
No,
made a
they're saying that's how
mistake.
it is.
That's wrong. Well, then maybe I need to see the tweets or so. Maybe to be fair, maybe I can't speak for them.
Sure. I
However,
mean, there
from
are a
all the
lot of
different
arguments about
conversations
this.
I've had, but from all the different conversations I've had, right? There's an acknowledgement and understanding. One, our society hates pedophiles. They hate it when it's like 16-year-olds, let alone when it comes to 11-year-olds. The whole thing, minor whole thing.
Oh, did
They
you
will
guys know?
literally have sting operations where they'll beat these people
Speaking
up. There's
of-
literally, it's a thing, right?
Speaking of, there was a Wick
go
hater,
ahead.
okay, recently. A Wick hater, Aston Mack, who would come on my show, call me a Nazi, call me all sorts of names, who recently got caught in a Chris Hansen sting for trying to proposition a 15-year-old girl. Let that
I'm
be the
saying,
fate of
right?
all Wick haters, right? Like, we could know.
See what I'm saying?
I think
So there's
yeah,
these sting operations. So, and I'll wrap up and I'll let you go, right? But the concern that I have is when you can see the observable reality that overwhelmingly our society, as far as even attacking these men and beating them up and putting videos on the internet, this is not a normal nor acceptable thing. No one really believes this. Even the people who may be arguing in your comment section, I'll accept they exist. I don't know if they're reflective of general societal norms. I don't know if I can submit that to you. And I don't think it's fair to project that onto most men.
I just don't like the idea that we should give them more grace. It's like, no, fuck these guys. Go ahead, Tali.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I don't, but I think I'm siding more with Xerxes on this one. We obviously should not give those guys, the people who are trying to literally excuse it. We shouldn't give those guys any grace. But I think there is a real phenomenon happening in society right now, not just the sort of craze on like catching pedophiles, but especially with the younger generation. You see them talking about age gaps, like a 16 and a 19
She was
year old, and
22,
they're
you
calling
sick
that
fuck,
pedophilia.
right? That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a
There's a
21-year-old
lot of
underage girl. You
right,
know?
and I think that type of thing, like, even gets. It's funny to me. I think there are probably some autists in your audience too, Diane, who are just like they can't look past the technical sexological difference of what the word pedophile is supposed to mean, like we sort of got at earlier, like pedophile versus hebephile or whatever. And so I do hope at least that is part of the reaction that you're getting is not actually people who even want to justify the behavior at all, but people who are just really a stickler for the precise definition of that word.
Hope you're right too.
Maybe. Let's move away from the PDF file stuff. Because you did make another tweet that I felt was worth bringing up. Because I disagree with it. I don't know how Zerse will feel.
We'll see.
But there was a clip from the show Girls, right? And
Oh no, with Adam Driver.
Yep.
With Kylo Ren. I don't know his fucking name, dude.
That's his name, Adam Driver.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's do
Kylo
it. Yeah,
Ren.
let's
I'm
do it.
gonna
Let's
call
go.
him Kylo Ren because it's funnier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Call him Kylo Ren. So Kylo Ren, I guess, was kissing on this girl, and through the clip, you find out they've been together for like 7 weeks, and the girl's like, "Oh, I can't have sex right now. I just had an abortion." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I just aborted." And he's like, "Was it mine?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was yours." And he got very upset in the clip, and he he pushed up a bunch of stuff off a table or something, right? And I saw a lot of comments saying that, oh, he's crazy. And I think your tweet, and I don't have it up right now, right? But you I'm going to paraphrase it and correct me if I'm wrong, please. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, right? That you said something like he has no right to be angry. That's a real red flag that he is angry, and she had no responsibility to tell him anything. And I disagree with all three of those things. So we're gonna give it to her first to kind of elaborate and explain, and she could tell us her in her own words, and then we'll get you in on the discussions there. So don't worry. Go
I
ahead.
think Kind of. I don't remember exactly what I said. It's not quite that. I think I said that I would be relieved if I were her that I made the right decision because of his like very angry response.
He was
And
angry his child was killed, and that's the male you don't want to be with. The one who cares enough about his child that they died. You don't want that one.
Let her finish.
I don't want
searching.
to be with a guy who would ever feel that it's appropriate to respond to me by throwing stuff across the room and starting to yell at me. I'm not going to put up with any of that. That's just not acceptable to me. That's just me, though. I'm sure there are plenty of women who would put up with that kind of behavior, but it's not for me.
So within
And I
context,
certainly wouldn't want to be stuck with him for like the rest of the child's life, having to deal with him if he's going to, like, when he gets upset, he's going to throw things, he's going to yell. That's toddler behavior. It's unacceptable in a man.
So within
I don't care what
context,
happened to him.
so it doesn't matter that you aborted his
very
child.
slow.
So the
No.
context is you didn't tell him that you were pregnant, and as much as that, you aborted his child. He responds with a huge amount of anger. And instead of you thinking to yourself, wait, I just caused this reaction, you say, I hate that reaction. There's
relief.
something wrong with you. Okay.
100%.
Now, just to be clear, that's how you feel, but you can keep going.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we understood it.
How I feel, because it's like, listen, the only reason why you would feel like you could be upset here is if you feel some entitlement over using my body as an
You mean
incubator. Yes. You have no right to make my body into an incubator against my will. So if you're angry,
where was he against your will if you wanted to have sex with him? Wait, we just gonna
What?
pretend
No.
you didn't want the strokes?
Anytime-
We just gonna it just came out of
anytime-
nowhere.
Anytime a woman decides, I don't want this inside of me anymore, I believe it should be her right to remove it. That's her body.
Do you not think a woman
That's
has a responsibility to at least consult or tell the husband, or not the husband in this case, but the baby daddy, the person, the father of the child, the one who impregnated her? Do you not think she has at least a duty or responsibility to inform him and maybe even get his opinion? I'm with you in the sense that I think that ultimately it should be the woman's decision for a host of reasons, right, that we can get into if you want. But I think that I would judge a woman who does not even think to tell the man, or worse, deceives the man about it. I would judge that woman harshly in a moral sense. So my question is, do you not think that the woman has a duty or a responsibility or an obligation to at least tell the guy before she does it?
a duty. No, because
Of course
if she can predict that a guy might, harass her, or he might really want her to keep the baby, and so he'll try to manipulate her, or he'll try to guilt her, or he'll try to in any way, like, I don't know, put pressure on her or make her life unpleasant or get angry or throw things, then she's absolutely correct to just not consult him at all and not, have this whole scene. Because, like, her safety comes first. Like, she doesn't have to put herself in danger because some guy might throw a little toddler tantrum because he doesn't like what she chooses to do with her own body.
See, you won't let them live. You won't let them die. You don't care if a male cares enough about his child that he responds in anger, but you also think that there's some type of perverted monster that only cares about sex. See, the thing that concerns me, let's not even discuss the idea of whether or not a woman can or can't have an abortion, right? Let's just throw that away. What we have here is you can't even empathize with the idea. You can't even relate to the human being, the human experience that you took a child away from me. You're not even empathizing or understanding on that level. You took my child from me, and the worst part is you didn't say anything. You just kept it pushing. You went back into we used the scene in context. You went back to have sex with me again, or to get fellatio, but you can't consult me on this seriousness. You can't give me the opportunity to be a father. You can't understand why I would be upset. See, we have a dehumanization problem here. It's not a problem about whether or not a person can get a form of abortion. You don't even understand why a male would care that his child was killed. You can't even relate to that. So, like, again,
Oh,
it comes back to
I
my
can.
question. Like, what do you hope
I
to
can.
accomplish,
Give her a
Diane,
chance to
if you
respond,
can't
please.
see the humanity of man?
Give her a
Go
chance
I
ahead.
to
can
respond, please.
understand.
Yeah.
I can understand why a man would respond this way. I can understand that, like, he feels these emotions and that he feels that he's owed something. Just because I have cognitive empathy and I can see where he's coming from does not mean that I agree that his response is something that is the correct way to behave. Do you see the difference? Like, I understand where he's coming from. I disagree. Does that make sense? Just because I can see why he responds that way, it doesn't mean that I accept that this is his response, right? I can see that he's angry and he feels like something was taken away from him and he feels like he deserved that.
What you did was you reversed the order. You pretend as if the response happens in absence of what occurred before then. What occurred before then is a serious betrayal. This isn't that she didn't buy the cookies he wanted at Walmart. This is you got an abortion. It's serious. And so you say, I don't like the way he reacted. What about what you did to cause the reaction? Why do we pretend that that what you did was fine and that his reaction is the problem?
I don't see actually any evidence
deception?
From the scene. I don't see any evidence from the scene that they had previously discussed having children or what they would do if she got pregnant.
Let her
so
go.
there
is Zerse, you gotta let her talk. You gotta let her talk. You gotta let her talk. Zerse, please. Go ahead, Diane.
So in my mind, there's no betrayal because she hasn't promised him anything. So, I mean, what has she betrayed, right? Like, she doesn't owe him anything.
If they're in a relationship,
they've been dating for 7 weeks. They've been.
So you need enough time to have honesty?
She was honest. She told him.
Okay, do you know what lying by omission is? She got the abortion. She didn't consult him. She didn't talk to him. She didn't even tell him what she was doing the day of. She got it. Then later on, she's like, oh, oops, I forgot to tell you. Wait, that's deception. She knew who she was pregnant by. She knew she could have said something to him.
Let me ask it this way.
And she chose not to.
Sure, let me ask it this way, Diane, right? And I don't mean to gang up on you, please. I hope you don't feel like you're ganged up on.
That's fine. No,
Tali
don't worry about it.
Is your human shield.
I'm tough.
Good.
It's
Good.
fine.
We like tough. And you can be tough against stuff, right? We can take it too.
Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
Would it change your opinion if the woman had found out she was pregnant, right? Maybe they had a one-night stand. Maybe they weren't even in a relationship. They found out a one-night stand or something. They knew each other. They were friends. Maybe they got drunk and tried it, right? And she got pregnant, doesn't tell him, and then 9 months later, shows up at his door, being like, hey, here's your kid. Where's my child support? Did that woman do anything wrong? Why or why not?
I don't know what you mean by wrong.
By immoral. Did she do anything wrong? Did she hurt that man by what she did? Wrong that man. Do something incorrect towards that man.
My initial instinct is to say no because I don't think that there's any like contractual obligation there.
Okay. I think
there is legally.
Hold on. Just let me please respond. I fundamentally disagree. Oh,
okay.
especially if you're going to keep the child, this puts legal obligations upon the man that had you told him and consulted with him, right? He could have prepared for, right? He could have changed whatever he needed in his life to prepare for that thing to happen, right? Maybe he could have had a chance to persuade you not to keep the baby, right? Or had input in either way, right? To have input into the thing that is going to have an impact on his life. And by not informing him in either scenario, you have robbed him. You have robbed him of the chance to convince, to persuade, to any of these for something that is just as much his child as it is yours. Why am I wrong? Why is it incorrect?
Which part is it? I just don't think that like she's made. Why do I don't think that she has any obligation to sort of like ask permission of somebody if she doesn't want them involved in that decision. I don't, because it's her body. So when he
But-
had
but
sex
here's
with
the
her, then
problem.
he knows
Mhm.
the risk that he takes and that he might impregnate her and she might choose to have that child, and then he's on the hook for child support. Or she might get pregnant and choose to abort it, and then, he'll have whatever feelings he has about that. Like, those are things that he can foresee at the time of sex. And
Well,
so,
okay.
like, he can mentally prepare for any of those, but I do not think that she has any kind of obligation to tell him if she doesn't feel like it.
Let me take this
Does a
route.
male have
Then
any
while you
obligation?
formulate response, we're going to give the mic to you in a second, Zerse, but people have been paying me money
Mhm.
to say things, so I'm going to read some super
Okay.
chats, right? And then we're going to get there, right? And if you have super chats you want to give me, I will take your money, okay? I will take all the money that you want to give me. If you have bits you want to send me, Twitch subs, if you've enjoyed this content, hit the like button, subscribe button, all that. Let me get through these. $2 from Crash Out or Cash Out to say, I can't stand it. Can I join Angry Face? We might do call-ins later. It depends what Diane wants, but not right now. We're full. I'm having a handful just keeping Zerse and Tali in check. Tali's been the worst, right? Trying to wrestle her. Okay, I'm kidding. It's a joke. Antonio Cunningham for $5 says she just confirmed that she hates men. The vast majority of men are not PDF files. Look at what men do to PDF files. Them in prison. $5 from Gregio. Just wanted to let Wick know that thumbnail is deranged, and I appreciate it. You're welcome. £5 from RPG. Boys get grabbed by women all the time, and women minimize and ignore it. Well, we didn't even get to that portion of that, but it's worth talking about. $10 from Antonio Cunningham to say, we clarify prepubescent because there's zero reason prepubescent people should be sexualized. There's a massive difference between an 8-year-old and a 17-year-old. Both are bad, but an 8-year-old is worse. That's true. $5 from Chernobog Rebellion. Quote, talks only to PDFs. Quote, getting a strong PDF vibe from all men I see everywhere. Thank you for the $5. $2 more from Crash Out or Cash Out to saying offing babies is okay, but throwing stuff is bad. Happy face, laughy face, laughy face.
Yeah, to be fair, right?
Tier 3 2-month membership from Alexander Wynn. Thank you for the Tier 3 2-month membership. Jesus Christ, she is so blinded by her own perspective as a woman. She can't see anything past that. $5 more from Crash Out or Cash Out. She doesn't like the reaction because it holds accountability to women. This also displays how women promiscuity is seen as okay and men's are seen as bad. And then $2 more for Crash Out or Cash Out to say bashes a few while protected by the many. And then $20 from Alexander Wynn. To the woman on the top left, are there any obligations or faults that women have? The top left. Yeah, let's ask. That's Diane. Her name's Diane Yap. Her link is in the YouTube description. Well, that's a good one to start. Are there what obligations or wrong? We've talked a lot about women's rights. What are women's wrongs in your opinion?
Can you give me examples for like men?
Societally,
so I can
right?
see if
What behaviors in general do you think that women do that are harmful, that are wrong, that are immoral?
Wow.
I don't really know how to answer that. Can you give me an example for men so that I
Okay,
can
sure.
see like what
Most
kind
people
of
would
format
say-
the answer would
Sure.
take? Because like women commit crimes, like women
No.
are I don't know.
So
what
one of the things that men are accused of doing, and we can argue about whether they actually do it, but this is a good example of a stereotype. A men's stereotype of bad behavior is that they mansplain, right? That they talk over women and they try to mansplain, and that's seen as a bad behavior. What bad behaviors do you think, in your opinion, women commonly engage in? What are some toxic feminine qualities that women have? Go ahead.
I think toxic empathy is one of them. Like the sort of empathy where you're not really worried about the good of the target. You're actually just worried about making yourself look good, like a moral person. So that's one thing that women are extremely guilty of, and that's resulted in a lot of policy failures. Let's see. I think women do like to use emotional responses like tears and whatever to manipulate people, especially men. Let's see. I think women do like sometimes date and marry people that they're not really attracted to because there are other things in it for them,
Okay.
like wealth or status or whatever.
Okay. I mean, that's a good list. We can start with there. Go ahead, Tali. You have something to say? What are women's wrongs?
Well, I wasn't gonna
Oh,
jump in.
go ahead.
I think those were excellent examples, and I think it probably surprised people in the audience that Diane answered that with some, I think, like salient examples that people would probably list themselves. This is just my own commentary. Diane is like is to me is like the female Richard Hanania. Like I can't tell how much of it is a troll, but I also think it's mostly sincere with enough artful trolling that it keeps people enraged at all times. And so
Well, why court that?
I think, would you mind, Diane, talking to our audience here a little bit about like assortative mating, because I think that's what kind of a lot of this comes down to, and what I perceive as some of your frustration too is there seems to be this idea, like even in terms of like, oh yeah, all men would prefer like, you know, the fast food waitress instead of like the girl boss, and there's like this assumption that basically like all men are deserving of having a partner in some way, and that women should be expected to settle, you know, because of their typical hypergamous behavior. So can you talk a little bit about assortative mating and why you think why all of that type of commentary really bothers you, or why you think it's inaccurate?
I don't think assortative mating bothers me at all. It's basically just the phenomenon where
Why?
Well, let her
assuming you
explain. Let her
agree with
explain.
assortative
Let her
mating.
explain.
Yeah, I do.
I misworded how I said it. I think
No
the
worries, no
people
worries.
saying the opposite bother you.
Okay. Yeah. So I think assortative mating means basically that like will find like. So people who are high intelligence, who have high powered jobs, who are high openness, etc., will tend to find and mate with each other. And so I guess a lot of the difficulty, or a lot of the people who yell at me, I think are probably just on the lower end of like the IQ scale. Have you ever heard of this Twitter account, Cartoons Hate Her? She has
Yeah. Do you not like her?
a blog.
She's great.
Oh, I love her.
Okay, I was about to
She's
say.
great. She
if
has
you
a
think she's low
whole
IQ,
blog
we have a
post.
problem.
No, I love her.
Okay,
She's fantastic. She has a whole blog post about how the men who yell at her are probably or mostly just like sort of like low IQ men who, you know, are telling about the kinds of women that they see around them, you know.
Funny
and
coincidence, everyone who disagrees with me is also low IQ, but go on, please.
I know, right? That's crazy, isn't it?
It's weird how that works, but please continue.
And like, I mean, they're complaining about a lot of behaviors that maybe would not be so common amongst people who are, I don't know, like higher IQ, higher income professional people, like the kinds of women behavior, or how women are completely uninteresting and only good for sex, and you can't even talk to a woman because she has zero thoughts in her head besides what she's seen on television or something. It's basically like, well, you're just telling on yourself right now. Like, you're telling me the quality of women who you're able to even get to have a conversation with you, and that's extremely low. But you need to look at yourself in the mirror to determine why it's so low.
I think the highest sign of IQ is donating to Wick TV. That's how I know someone's absolutely high IQ. But continue, Zerse, go ahead. I want to give. Zerse
I do have a question.
Yeah,
Diane, have you ever been courted before?
Whoa, I don't know. What does
Like,
that mean?
has someone
Did somebody
ever
have
tried
to have like
a relationship with you? Like whether it's like they wrote you a poem,
yeah.
put
It
you on a
started in
date,
third grade.
So
It started in third grade.
so this is
Why?
what bothers me, right? So like, if you've been courted before, do you think that the males that wanted to be with you, they didn't like you, that they hated you,
Wait,
that
what?
they?
What? No, I think they liked me.
So you think so?
Yeah.
So if you think that
Yeah.
they could like you, why would you think that males don't like other women that they're trying to date?
Wait, what? Oh, because
Why
these
would you
are
think they would only want sex if the men who courted you didn't only
Wait,
want
what?
sex?
What?
So
Who?
you've been
What?
courted. Someone wanted to date you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They
I
liked
guess.
your personality, right?
Maybe. I don't know what they
Maybe they
liked. Why
did,
you gotta
right?
ask
Okay.
them? Maybe they just wanted to
So
have sex. Who knows?
but you talked to them. They courted you. You
Yeah,
went on the
sure.
date.
Yeah. I went on dates.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
So
True.
those men, right? Think about
Yeah,
it.
those men.
Those men,
Mhm.
they liked you.
Mhm.
They tried to
Yeah.
date you. But
Yeah.
then other men that weren't them, they only want
Mm.
sex. They're all just lecherous. There's all something wrong with them. Is that
No,
what you would submit?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I literally don't want to believe that about men, but
But you
men are
couldn't
telling me this about
because in
men.
the real life they didn't act
Wait, what?
like that. That's what I'm saying. When you were being courted, Diane, they didn't just want to smash you. They wanted to. They went on date. They talked to you. They played video games. I don't know what they did with you, but it was more complex than just trying to
Sure.
smash,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if in real life that's what you've experienced,
yeah.
why would you think that there are no other males who do that for other women?
I literally just said I don't believe that, and not only that, I don't want to
Hmm.
believe that. I said that
But
I
you
told this to
couldn't. That's what I'm saying.
I
You
told
couldn't
this to the
believe
men
that.
who said this. I was like,
Okay.
"I don't even wanna believe this. You say that I hate men. I don't wanna believe this about men. This is too bleak even for me, you know?
So
I don't
you would
wanna
just say
believe
they're
this about
wrong.
men."
So you would reply to those men, "You're wrong." Literally, my
Yeah, okay,
boyfriend,
like, I have
literally
a
the man who
handful
cares about me doesn't act that way. That would be an easy
listen,
response, right?
I have a handful of counterexamples, but, you know, they could still be speaking for 90% of all men, 95% of all men,
So my question is, why
99.99%
would you think that that
of
would be
all
the
men.
case, though?
How many men have tried to date me? Not very many. So, like, how would I know about the rest of the men? I have no idea, right?
Okay, but this is what concerns me, right? What concerns me is the fact that I've tried to court women. I've tried to
You have.
have complex
Why?
relationships with them, right? I back when I was in high school, I wrote them poems
How's
and
it going,
whatnot,
by the way, on
took
that
them
end?
on
I'm just
dates.
curious.
They suck, bro. So I can talk to you about that later. But
Okay, we'll talk later.
it's
Wait, the
like
women
the
suck or
point.
just
Yeah,
dating
they were
sucks?
both. But anyway,
Okay.
so it's like I have been on the side of things, right, where I have been kind, good, respectful, and loving towards women, right.
Yes.
Now, when I was younger, I used to think that I was special. And when I started doing YouTube, I learned I'm not special at all. I'm not special. Lots of males operate like that consistently. Lots of males operate like that. Your own experience shows you males operate like that. The concern
Mhm.
that I have is we see men are operating in a manner of which they're trying to court and show themselves as good to women. Why would we
Mhm.
then believe the other males that they're the ones that are right? You didn't see them only trying to just smash. You saw all the men who wanted relationships. So why would you believe that, but not the other thing you
Like,
personally also
I told you
experienced?
3 times. I was like, I not only do I not believe it, I don't like, I wouldn't wanna believe it. I
You
tell these
exact,
men, like,
but here's what you should say. I can't believe it because it's not true. You would just say it's not
okay,
true.
okay,
That's what
okay,
you would
but I have,
say.
like personally, I only have a handful of counterexamples, so they could
But
still
you
say,
but
"Okay, it's
you
true
you
for
have you have pop culture,
99,99999%
you have
of
you
men."
have you have you have Love is Blind, you have all these different movies. You have
Yeah,
someone right here in the chat talking to you. You have all the other males who are also on Twitter talking about all the other times they've tried to date someone. Maybe they're not on your page, but they're there. I've seen them. The problem I'm
mhm.
having, if you want to find men talking about how much they care about women, and it's not hard. So why are we taking all the males who are like, nah, we just want to smash? Why are we taking them into consideration as the representative when we've got everything else over here? You see what I'm saying?
'Cause they also tell this insidious thing, they're like, "The guys who say they want anything else are faking it because ultimately they just wanna smash."
Is that what you think of all the males who tried to
Tali,
court
you're
me? They
muted
all
Not
if you're
fake
trying
it.
to talk.
all, not
There,
all.
there's an interesting phenomenon here because no matter how much I agree with you, Xerxes, like the truth is exactly what Diane just said. The men are saying this is all men, and they're saying any man who tells you otherwise is lying or is
But that's
trying to
not
He's
the
a
lie.
downplay.
simp,
Hold on,
he's
hold
a
Think
on,
about
hold
it.
fuck,
on, hold
he's
Think
on,
a
about it.
hold
beta.
on. Right, or right, they're trying to if they tell you otherwise, they're downplaying the reality of the situation. So there's like a not all men happening, but it's the men saying that it's all men. You know, it's
Okay,
like
Right.
it's not like
but hold on,
women
Tally.
projecting and saying
But
like, oh, any this
Tali,
type of behavior would in
But
theory
Tally,
be
you
gross.
you would
It's
why?
like
be. You
Hold
men
on.
would be. I'll
saying,
tell you
Let,
why.
let me try to speak Tali here because I speak to
Mhm.
Tali just a little.
Go
Why do
ahead.
you believe those men, but you don't believe us men? Why do you put so much weight on what they're saying when they say, "Oh, those guys are lying," but when we say, "No, we're not"? What?
And think about
What?
the
What? Hold on.
action
Hold on. Hold on.
with the
What?
words,
Hold on.
right?
Hold on. Let me. Cersei,
Mhm.
Cersei, I love you. Cersei, you're my friend. But come on, you gotta let
Go
me
ahead.
finish. You gotta let me finish
Go
my
ahead.
thought, right?
You can cook. Go ahead. You can
What
cook.
what artifact or what variable are you using to believe Twitter shitters versus dudes who are sitting with you guys right now? Like, why believe them and not us?
So one reason, and this could be used similarly as like evidence against, right? Just the fact that it's an unflattering thing to share, and they have the luxury of like being anonymous in some way, so they don't have to like they don't have to take like the social hit of saying this,
Or
in
being
real life to
wrong?
people that they know. And so there are people like we know, anyone who spent a lot of time on Reddit, like people go and bare their souls online and find other people who are having these same experiences. And while I think that even many of the men
No,
replying to
that's so
Diane,
unhealthy,
they're
though.
speaking hyperbolically when they say like the only thing I care about. But another reason that I'm inclined to believe that there is some there is that I've listened to even many very good, thoughtful, whatever men who talk about even like just their sexual awakening as like essentially an uncontrollable, overwhelming, what feels like unstoppable force sometimes, that they feel like animalistic. And this is again, this is
Mhm,
coming from men who I think are good men too. So when
mhm.
you add this all together, it's like the good men are telling you that like, yeah, like basically men would do anything for sex. Yes, I'm also a domesticated good guy. And so I don't just live my life that way. But
Domesticated.
yes, if I'm honest, this is
Mhm.
the male, this is the driving force for males. So
Okay. Let me
seems
let
like
me
there
Let
could
me
be
respond and
some
then I'll
allow
let you
me
go.
evidence.
allow
Zerse,
me.
let me respond and let you go
Okay,
because I
go ahead.
really want to
Okay,
address this point.
go ahead.
Right. One of the worst things of modern society and modern discourse is social media because of some things that you've alluded to in your statement there, right? I think it is look, toaster fuckers. They'd go all their life wanting to fuck a toaster, but they'd be like, everyone around them would be like, that shit's weird. And then they would stop, right? Today, they can put their trauma on Reddit and find a group of 10,000 national toaster fuckers and
Good
feel
point.
like they belong. And they gas each other up to be like, this is normal when it's not. When you are talking about men who go going online to seek out trauma in trauma groups and they all decide to gas each other up with their trauma, it's unhealthy. It doesn't spark any sort of change of behavior or ways of thinking, and it leads to really, really bad outcomes. And this happens with men, women, all ideologies, all across the spectrum, right? So what I'm saying is that a toucher of grass. Yes, I stream. I know I'm making a lot of money stream, right? But I, as someone who goes outside, right, and has relationships with people that are not online, that's not how people work, right? When you talk about these uncontrollable urges that men have, they're not uncontrollable. Yes, I get horny sometimes. I see a woman and I'm like, I'm horny and I would like to put my dick in it, right? But you don't act on that and you control that. It's easy to control at a certain point. This idea that it's overwhelming, that we can't deal with it, is because people are weak and they've been told that by Twitter shitters, right, that it's just natural, you shouldn't fight it. No, you learn to control it. It's a skill issue, straight up. Anyway, Zerse, go ahead, please.
No, I want to work together on this one, right? Because I want to grant that it is possible, absolutely, that there are some males who really are sex addicted, 100%, or there are males who are just controlled by their desire. They're just lust, and I think that's fair that they exist, right? And I think it's fair to not want to engage with them. I think the issue that I have is the fact that I'm going to make the assumption, Tali, that you've been courted by a man, that some man has tried to have a relationship with you. If it is the case, then you would have directly experienced life with someone who really likes you, who really cares about you, that wants a life with you to some degree, whether it's a couple of dates or whether he wants to marry you. If this is the case and you've experienced this directly, why would we go on the internet with males you haven't experienced and then we take stock into what they're saying, right? Again, wouldn't it make more sense that he's sex addicted than it would be all males can't control? We have a whole society. You walk past males all the time. They don't just jump on you. They don't just attack you, right? So there
Well,
has to be a
Diane
part
It's
where
a
made
we
different
intersect
argument. It's a different argument.
with
It's not.
rationality.
It's not.
So
It's
so
not.
so
That's not the argument. It's
so
not that
watch
they're
this.
like not
We
under
believe them
control and they're going
because
to
they're
attack you.
But
That's not the argument.
they will use
Zerse
subterfuge.
finish, but then I want to know the argument. But yeah.
So if I understand, it would be that because they are anonymous, there's more leaning on the side that they're being honest and upfront with how they feel because there's no social backlash. Perhaps that be the case, but again, I ask, if you've experienced, again, real life, the complexities of being around a male, why are we going to lean into anonymous random person there who, just because he's anonymous, doesn't even mean he's being honest. It just means you can't challenge him directly, versus the men you've seen in real life. I mean, and then just pop culture, like the depiction in pop culture is indeed still just this: a male trying his best to prove that he's a good man to a woman.
So I think it's because there's not that much distance, really. There's not that much distance between the two, especially because a lot of the men that Diane is talking about online, they're not saying men can't control themselves, men need to act out on themselves.
Argument at all.
They're saying if you go into if you really ask, if a man were being given truth serum, here's what he would tell you. Here's the types of thoughts that he's having all day long. And I think that does bear out. Like I said, even with good men that I was friends with, men are dogs. A lot of men are dogs. Even really sweet men who end up monogamous. All of these things can still be true. So I think,
fun fact about dogs, especially wolves in particular, they mate for life. See, the thing
there
is,
you go. So I'm not even saying that it's entirely incompatible.
So the interesting thing is, right? Even if it's true that males desire to have sex, why does that mean that they want to just do it randomly or indiscriminately? You've been with men. How do you know they don't want to be with you? So what's the argument? Give me the argument. We'll address it directly.
Argument. The argument is that is the only thing. Sex is the only thing that motivates the man. So that he might have a fancy job, he might court you, he might take you on dates, but ultimately, if sex is off the table for him, he won't do anything.
Okay,
so if you tell a man, I will never have sex with you, just see how many dates he wants to take you on.
Can I just counter this with one simple question, right? So if you think that that's the only thing that men want from women, that's the argument that the only thing that men want from women is sex. Is that your argument? Did I get that right?
No.
No?
That's the motivator, is what she's saying.
No, it's the only motivation that they have. So if that is off the table, then they are no longer motivated to do anything. You tell a man, I am never going to have sex with you. Just watch how many gifts or how many dates he takes you on. He'll be like, nah, fuck that. And then he'll take his motivation to have sex to some other woman, right?
Can I ask you, do you think that me inviting you on this panel has any intention of having sex with you?
Not with me, but like when you have people on your panel, you get more money. When you have people on your panel, you get
money. Not the sex.
No, but like the
money.
ultimate motivator is that's like just a side route to more sex.
Oh, you
get more prestige, you get more
sex with other people.
To have sex
the money
with
is a proxy.
Anybody.
Do you
all
think
of these
this
things
is
are
helping
proxy
or hurting
goals.
my ability to have sex with
basically,
people, right? That's what the
this
money's
is-
going to. That's what the money's going to, really.
These
That's
are
a
all
whole
like
journey.
stepping stones.
Yeah.
These are all stepping stones. The $20 somebody paid you to
Bro,
ask.
no,
Hey,
I'm
that's
getting more
like $20
combat
more
patrols.
for you.
I don't know what you're talking
And then,
about.
like,
I'm getting more.
If you're
I'm
getting more
sister
followers,
sororitas.
you're getting more status, you're getting higher status, you're getting more followers, you're getting more viewers, you're getting more money, and all of that adds up to increasing your probability of having sex down the line. And so that is the main thing that is motivating. That's what this theory is that all of that other stuff that you're doing is because ultimately way down there at the bottom of everything, you're just stacking that cash so that you can attract women so that you can have sex.
The reduction of men to this to their dicks is dehumanizing. It's dehumanizing.
That's men doing this. It's a bunch of men. Homath, all of his followers are
that.
like, yeah, you're so
That's
right. You're so right. They're all agreeing on it. Okay.
You're believing that.
I told you. I told you. I don't want to believe this, but
you don't want to, but you kind of do. You may not want to, but you kind of do.
I don't want to. I don't believe it only because of the existence of autists who I know personally who don't even want a woman to ever touch them despite being ostensibly straight.
So you have to
try to give them a hug. They're like, no, never touch me.
Smash.
Never touch me. I don't like being touched. Then I believe it about that man that like nothing he does is motivated by sex. He literally cannot be touched by anybody. He doesn't even want hugs from his own family.
So I'm curious about this though, and Tali, I think you can answer it too. I'm very curious. Do you think it's possible for men to love women?
Yes.
So you think it's possible?
In fact, I'm convinced. Actually, I've become convinced that men maybe even love harder. Like I've been convinced that it takes men a significantly longer time to get over women than it takes women to get over men.
Okay.
So
Oh,
Because
yeah,
that
yeah.
happens mid-relationship most of the time, you know? For women getting over men, that happens like halfway through the relationship, and then it just like a slowly downhill from there.
I
Okay.
think there's truth to that.
So-
I can see that.
I yeah, I can't I haven't thought about that, but it sounds true, but I don't know. Let me read some super chats because, gang, let's be real. My highest motivation is money. And what motivates you to pay to Wick TV? You get to hear my sultry voice, okay? So it might be sexual for the chatters. I don't know, right? But they get to hear my sultry voice read their words that they type out. And we do have a standing, and I've made like over $1,000 on this. We do have a standing deal on the channel that if you pay me $50, I will take my shirt off for the duration. So people pay me money for this. It's weird. Okay, $10 from Alexander Wren to say, based statement, Diane. Complaining about not being able to get better is just telling on yourself, your abilities, and your own faults. Thank you for the $10. $20 from the same individual, Alexander Wren, to say, also, Twitter is the absolute worst place to try to get information about larger groups of people. Most of them are trolls, bots, or red/black pillars, and MAGA idiots. $20 more from Alexander Wren, who is funding my next army, apparently.
He's our little cash cow.
Yeah.
Or
Pig
hammer.
or whatever, right? No, we love you, Alexander Wren. You're great. At Wick, remind Diane that plenty of men are fairly asexual. They aren't much different from any other man. Also, by definition, you're being pulled into conspiracy by an impossible to disprove statement. $10 from Alexander Wren to say, for fuck's sake, is this just a discovery that sex is a fundamental drive like food, water, shelter, etc.? And then $10 more from Crash Out or Cash Out to say, even though women champion their communication abilities, they fail to understand men and nuance. Also, they believe that the way they view the world is right. Sex is less than partner, than less than family, than less than society. Thank you for the $10. Okay, that done. Yeah. So like this idea that people like Ho Math are preaching the truth. I know this is a forlorn hope, perhaps. But I'm trying, Diane, to disabuse you of that notion. Homas should be laughed at because he is silly and
in some
wrong.
ways. Especially on Twitter.
Zerse
No,
loves him.
No, in some way. No, I don't love him.
Sometimes Zerse
his
is silly and wrong,
videos
and we
make
laugh at him.
sense.
But yeah.
And that's fair. Sometimes I am wrong. But like the thing is with Home Math, it's like, okay, some of his videos make sense. Some of his videos I don't agree with. Actually, I've recorded responses to some of them and haven't, did the editing, but I don't agree with him on everything myself. And I definitely, whenever he tweets, I don't know, his tweets do not hit. I don't know what he's on Twitter, but some of his videos
He needs to learn
I
about
agree
being
with,
concise.
right? And I think
Yes.
and I think the thing is, it's like, I think that's reasonable for just like, being a human. There's some things you're gonna agree with, there's some things you don't agree with. But I think that it's a little silly to reduce men simply only to their desire to have sex. I mean, just historically, just currently, just males are complex individuals that it just seems kind of silly to even have to explain that we are a little bit more complex than we just want to have sex with you, right? I mean,
You
if this be the
guys
case,
just need to talk
why
to the men who are saying this. They are
I
saying this
do,
about
and
all of you.
and I rip them
and,
apart. That's what I'm
like-
saying, right? So, like, a couple years
But-
ago, I made a
so- but
response to
those
Myron
men-
Gaines from
those
Fresh
men-
and Fit. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not
Those
among
men
them,
are
right?
coming from your community, and I say your
Yeah, for
community.
sure,
That's the
100%.
interesting thing. That's what
Mhm.
makes this like a funny conversation here, because Diane's saying all of this super triggering shit, but she's literally saying, "I didn't believe any of this shit until
I don't even
these
want
men
to believe
came
it."
out and said this is the truth, and the other men are lying to you." And so there
They're
is
super
this
insistent.
interesting phenomenon here.
But I think that's reasonable because like we're not a hive mind. We're not all the same people, right? It makes sense that some people are gonna feel this way, some people are gonna feel that way, right? Obviously that's vague, but for this being an example, right? Sure, do some guys desire they just want to have sex with you? I'm saying absolutely, yeah, they exist. And if you were to ask me, I would say that as a
And
female,
look,
you should avoid them
as a
like the
woman,
plague.
that's a skill issue
Yeah.
on you, women. If the only thing that a man wants you for you is sex, that's your fault. You should be more interesting. They should want you for more.
But sometimes it's not their fault. Like sometimes the dude really is a dickhead, right? And I'm not going to take that away from women's experience. But here's what I'm not going to accept: that there are not other males you could have been with. There are. It might be the case you encountered a dude that just wanted to have sex with you. Okay, that happened.
Yeah, I
but
didn't
you
wanna-
could have been
I
with a
didn't
man
wanna-
You're
who
missing
didn't.
the point. You're missing the
Oh,
point.
we lost your camera, by the way.
The point is that males or men on Twitter are telling you that all of us just want to have sex, and that if anyone were to counter them, they're lying. Well, why would you don't think the liar would lie? If all
Again,
the other
not
males
just-
are lying, but that's not the lie. Liars lie,
Well,
but that's not the lie.
It's actually more interesting. It's actually more interesting to get to the point that she is making, right? So it's not that all that men want is sex. It's not that men only want to have sex all day long. It's that the underlying motivation, the core motivation is sex. And I think when we take, like, Diane posed a question, right, or a hypothetical, like, go and tell a man that you never intend to have sex with him and see how many dates he takes you on, see how many gifts he gives you. To me, that's like, well, duh. Like, sure, he shouldn't. He shouldn't give you, right. He shouldn't buy you any gifts, and he shouldn't take you on any dates. If he wants to have a sexual relationship with the woman that he ends up with, then that's a good indicator that you guys would be a mismatch. And there are plenty
You
of,
just
like,
be friends.
you know,
Yeah.
Sure, right. So, I mean, Wilfred Riley talks about this on Twitter all the time, of just sort of like relationship duties, and he talks about it that in terms of both partners having responsibility. But he says, yeah, women do have a responsibility to have sex with their man, and if you guys aren't doing it at a, and he believes that the man has a responsibility to get little gifts for the woman and to cook her dinner and to woo her in all of these other various ways. But I think these are like reasonable things when we just like take them when we just think it out a little bit more. And I really appreciate what Alexander, I think, said in his super chat. Obviously, men are motivated by sex, right? We are a sexually dimorphic species, and sex is how we keep our species alive. And this idea of like, oh, it's dehumanizing. Okay, well, humans are
The
one of many
dehumanizing-
class of animals, of mammals
Tali.
who have these different mating patterns.
Okay.
And
Tali, the dehumanizing part is when you reduce it to only sex.
Thank you.
Obviously,
right, which is
if
the
you
men
see
who
a
are
woman
saying this.
and you want to have a sexual relationship, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right?
Thank you.
But when that is,
Yeah.
when women say, right, that that's the only thing that men want, it is just as wrong as when men say, man, the only thing, man, women don't even like men. They just like cars and money. That's incorrect.
Mhm.
It's wrong. It's a
I mean, it's not
I
the
have a
argument, though.
question.
It's not that they only want sex. It's that is their motivator. That is the
I have a
primary
question.
motivator. And without
the
it,
primary
without
motivator.
access to it, they would just
But
stop
Diane-
doing things. They
I-
would just stop doing the things. They're not going
I
to
have a
take you
question.
out on dates.
And
They're
we'll
not
give
going to
it to
go
you
to
in a
work,
second.
etc.
We'll give it to you in a second, but that's where you and I disagree. The primary is the load-bearing phrase the load-bearing word that you're using to kind of put forth this idea, or how people have put forth this idea to you, which you don't want to believe, but you seem to believe, right? That's the impression I'm getting. Even though you don't want to, and you'd rather think better of us. Primary motivator. That's a very strong load-bearing word, and I'm saying that it is a motivator, but it is not in most. I won't say most men, but in many men, a primary motivator. I'll go so far as to say most men. Most men, that's not the primary motivator.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I don't know. Zerse, go ahead, and then yeah.
Well, I do have a question, and it's kind of just to gauge your thought process here, right? So follow me for a second. If you were to purchase a house and you like the house, you loved all the different rooms, but you come to find out that there's no bathroom in the house, would you purchase the house? You like the outside, you like all the rooms, you like the location, but there's no bathroom. Would you?
Yeah.
You'd still buy the house?
I mean, if I like it that much, I can just build one, right? What's the problem?
Perhaps you could, maybe. Tali, would you
I
still
don't
buy the house?
understand.
I love Diane so much.
I don't
that wanna just
understand the
say that
question
I'll-
at all.
I'll
Like,
build
if I
the
just love this
bathroom.
house so much, like, why wouldn't I just build
The
a bathroom? Like,
analogy
there's no
he's trying to
problem
say,
here.
I'll
Like, what's the
translate here.
problem?
The analogy that
Yeah,
he's
okay.
trying to get at is that there is something that is beautiful and desirous, but it's lacking in a key component that without which you, even though everything else is about it is great, you no longer want that thing. That is the analogy
And
he's
Wick
trying to
got it
make, and he's trying
immediately.
to
Yeah, he
tie
got
it
it
in
immediately.
to this.
Mhm.
Well, go ahead, tie it in.
Okay,
Ryan.
so I'll
And
just
and
answer
Wick got it
and,
immediately. But that's the
and
nature
say that
of the question. Yes.
for you, or
Mhm.
for
I got
men,
it
or
too.
maybe
It's
for
just
all
funny
men.
how Diane answered.
Maybe for you, for men, for all men, sex is like having a bathroom in your house at all. For me, if you said this man is perfect for you, but he does not ever want to have sex with you ever, never, not a single time, but everything else about him is perfect, that's fine. To me, that's like a house not having like, a red door. I don't give a shit.
Mhm.
I'm fine with
Would
that.
you?
That's okay.
So I
Because I
submit that that's
value him
you, right?
as a human
Mhm.
being. I care about him as a person. I don't care about him for what I can do to his body. Okay?
Mhm. I don't know. I
Yeah.
have a hard
That's the
time
difference
believing
between
that
you and
from
me.
you. But
No,
the
it's
reason why I
true.
have a tough time believing
Look
that,
at
I'm
her
gonna tell you why. Let's
humanizing
bring
the
it all the
hell
way
out
back.
of these men.
But
Yeah, I'm
that's
humanizing the
what's
hell out
insane
of
to
this
me.
guy.
Let's
I don't, it's
let's
okay.
jump into the time machine.
You don't
Let's
even
jump
have
into
a
our time
dick. It's
machine.
okay. I don't care. You don't have a dick. That's okay. We don't have to have
But
sex.
Diane,
It's cool. You're on feminizing hormones and you have zero
well, hold
sex
on,
drive. That's
Diane,
okay. I don't care. That's cool. I love you
Diane.
anyway. What? Yeah, tell
Let's
me.
jump into our time machine for a moment here, right?
I'm
Because
literally a chaser. You know that, right?
if we go back into our conversation,
You should
right?
talk
They
to
don't
Short
know.
Fat
Do you know that I'm a
Otaku.
chaser?
You did not have any empathy
I think I might have
for the
told Wick.
male who was upset about the fact that his child was aborted.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
now you care about the fullness of a male. You can't
The guy
understand why they
that
would be
I'm
angry
dating.
and respect and react
No,
horribly.
I
There's no
understand. I just
empathy.
disagree.
But
I understand. I just do not agree with the emotion or the response. I
okay.
understand where he's coming from. I told you that already. I get it. I just disagree. I think it's invalid.
That feels a bit disingenuous, though, right? Like the thing that
Wait, does
bothers me.
Zerse not know that I'm a chaser? He doesn't seem to know that I'm a chaser.
What does that mean?
Zerse, I'm
A
a
chaser is someone who goes after trans people.
Yeah, so like,
that's weird. I don't know.
So
so
you
like,
should talk
it is
to Dev.
totally a thing
Do you know
where
Dev? Do you
like
know who Short Fat Otaku is? Do you know Dev at all?
Yeah, I've never personally talked to him, but I know who he is.
Okay. Do you know, Diana, who Dev is?
Is he a chaser?
He's a chaser. I should introduce
fascinating.
you.
So
Oh,
like a
that's familiar,
chaser.
Todd.
Another panel is
But-
in order.
but-
The
But here's
chaser
the
panel.
So like
here's the
I
thing.
date guys who
Mhm.
like transition. I would date a guy who transitions into a woman and like has zero interest in sex because he's on like cross-gender hormones or whatever.
So
Right?
and
So
that's
it
fair. I
does
submit
not
that to you.
matter to me
Mhm.
if he doesn't want to have sex with me because
Mhm.
I love
Do you-
him as a person,
prefer
not
that?
Now,
as
I'm gonna
a
submit
sex
that. I'm gonna
toy.
let you have it. I'm gonna let
Do
you
you
have it.
prefer
The problem
that?
is,
I'm just really curious. Do you prefer that? Is that your preference that the man doesn't want to have sex with you?
I don't really care. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
do you prefer like between two choices that you don't really care about?
So
Like do you
you
prefer a
fundamentally
green door or a blue door? Like who the fuck cares?
So you
okay.
fundamentally just reduce the act of sex in and of itself as just like negligible, whether it's present or not. It's whatever. So like as far as like reproducing, like just functionally reproduction, like do you even care
No,
to have
it's
children?
not necessary. It's not necessary. IVF exists, you know? If there's like not
Yeah,
even
so
a single
just to that
like
extent.
you just can't do it
Yeah.
at all, that's okay. Oh, did I scare him off?
Hopefully, well, it might
Oh.
be. I don't find you very scary. It's been an interesting conversation. I don't want to hold you hostage like Amos, so we're going to end soon. If you want, there's a lot of people wanting to call in. You could stay for that, but it's not. We're not going to hold you off to that. But
I gotta get going soon,
Yeah.
but yeah, like
Yeah.
I could probably stay at least until the end of the hour.
Yeah, that figured. So while we wait for him, well, let me read these super chats first and foremost.
Sure.
Again, money is my primary motivator. Let's see. $20 to say. No, sorry, I already read that. Oh, $5 from Cash Out or Crash Out to say, those men are right about sex being a major factor, but also Diane doesn't have the mental IQ to wrap the full picture around it. Thank you for the $5. $10 from Psychonaut to say, Diane, if a man didn't work, would you still date him? If not, that is your proverbial bathroom. $5 for Determinatus to say, given two identical men One is willing to have relations with his girlfriend, and one not. Do you think the average woman would prefer them equally? And then $5 from Crash Out or Cash Out to say, it's not humanizing if your view limits the ability for society to progress. Diane literally is okay with the human race stopping. Are you okay with that, Diane?
I don't really care. Yeah, that's fine.
Fair enough. You understand though, like, you're an outlier in these things, right?
It's not. I'm not God. It's not up to me. It doesn't matter what I think about the human race continuing or not. Like, what power do I have over other people procreating? You know, like that. Literally, is just irrelevant. It's like, do you prefer the sky to be green? It's like, who the fuck cares what you prefer? What's gonna happen has nothing to do with your preference, right?
Well, your preferences.
It just doesn't matter.
That comes back to.
Oh, welcome back.
So that does go back to the question that I could hear you guys the whole time, but this goes back. Diane, what is the purpose of all of these tweets in your Rage Against the Machine of males if everything just falls into its own place and just happens? Why are you even doing anything?
I'll answer it. Why do I do this? Because it makes my dick hard.
Hell yeah.
Hell fucking yeah.
Why do I do anything that I do? It's because it makes my dick hard. I'm sorry, I don't... Have you ever seen that show True Blood? This isn't an original statement. The vampire king of Mississippi was once asked, like, oh, why do you do this? And he was like, I do it because I like it. It makes my dick hard. And ever since then, I've been stealing his phrase.
That explains where the meme came from, but I mean... Because I think the issue that I kind of have is that, like, you're coalescing a lot of rage, but, like, you don't care. You have a dog in the fight. You don't care, so you're just making things worse.
I have to confess, I'm a big nihilist. I'm a huge nihilist. It's just fun, you know. It's fun.
So if you're a nihilist, why don't you go through the fullness of what Nietzsche is saying and try to attempt to find the Ubermensch? You just give up. Nietzsche wanted us to find
I'm not giving up. I'm having fun. I'm having fun. Okay. Is that okay with you? Can I just have fun with my life, or do you need me to go find this?
Not if you're gonna be villainous. No. If being fun is just coalescing rage and anger and taking advantage of people and just messing with them.
What?
No, I kind of don't want you to have fun. That's sadistic. That's awful. I don't know if I should just walk off. So all of the different males that
you're not having fun,
that you're just pissing off randomly, right? That you're just farming for clicks and likes. You're just gonna pretend.
They don't have to read my tweets. I'm not forcing them to do anything. They engage because they want to.
Someone clip that dick hard statement.
They make their own
clip
choices.
It and send it to me. I want to use it for
which one?
Okay.
The dick hard statement.
Like, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. Come on, they all have their own choices to make. Yeah.
People love this argument. I don't care. I don't care. They love their argument as if that's substantial. Like you can just come on the internet and you can just be a shyster. I don't care. This doesn't mean anything to me. I just randomly farm rage just cause, bro. That's tomfoolery, and you know it's tomfoolery. You have very strong opinions and very strong disdain for men. It's very strong. We've seen it just in this conversation, let alone any other subject matter. You do not just not care. You have strong disdain.
Everything. You earn everything that you get from women. Just remember that.
Okay.
So that's what you believe.
Women
have how you can believe that.
That's because you've earned it.
Okay, gang. It's been a panel. It's been a show of shows. I want to just let you guys know we got a great week of content coming up next week. We're going to be talking to Soy Pill and Charlie versus Harmony Ginger and maybe someone big on Monday about wokeness in gaming. On Thursday, we're going to have a trans debate.
Why don't you bring me back for that?
There's a trans debate?
That sounds fun. Tali and her co-host of her other show are going to be debating Not So Erudite and Soy Pill.
Right?
It should be fun.
Nice.
Check that out.
About what?
Give me you need to give me a better prompt than what we have so far, Tali, so work on that. But if you've liked this content, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I'm going to give each of these lovely individuals a chance to shout themselves out, give some closing thoughts, and tell you where you can find them, because you should find them. You should follow them. You should give them the subscription, whatever they want, right? Because they took the time out of their days to come on my show and give you content, okay? please reward them for that. We're going to start with Zerse, because he's going to go longest, and we're going to go to Diane last and give her the last word. Zerse, go ahead. Final thoughts.
Honestly, it probably won't be that long. My final thoughts are I don't really think playing team man, team woman is gonna get us very far. I think people have contradicting different belief structures and opinions based on being a male because we're not a hive mind. We're all different. Obviously from Democrat to conservative to XYZ, whatever you want. So sure, you might find a bunch of males on Twitter who feel X way. Fine, fair enough. I submit to the court they exist. I don't know how reasonable it is to make them the reflection when in your real life interactions you find the complete opposite, number one. But number two, I don't know why you would want to give way to the worst interpretation of humanity across the board on Twitter. Twitter has become an absolute cesspool of awful takes, awful opinions, and just the worst people in their operations. To me, I find it to be silly to. I mean, to be honest with you, Diane, you kind of are a contributor, right? And the I don't care argument I think is silly when you've clearly displayed you have a strong disdain for men. You do care. And I think that if we want the world to be a better place, we can actually do something about it. And that doing something about it is not rage baiting people on Twitter. I don't believe you don't care, and I think that we could do something a little bit more productive than what we have thus far.
Okay, thank you for being here, Zerse. You can find the link to his YouTube
Mhm.
channel in my YouTube description. Click that link, give him a follow. Thank you. Diane Yap, please go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that despite all appearances, I don't hate men, I don't disdain men, I don't think any of that stuff is true about me personally with any of the men that I've actually met and talked to in my life. So if you know any of these guys, you can ask them like, does she hate men? And they'll probably be like, no, she's fine. She's a regular person. Why? Because they behave like regular people to me. So I like to say this, that I'm a mirror. If people are going to show me whatever it is they want to show me, I'm going to reflect that back to them. And if they get mad about that, that's really on them. Right? So I do think that there is a way to move forward, but unfortunately that means leaving behind a good amount of men who've decided that all they want to do is complain about women. And if they want to do something other than that, then fantastic. I'm, rooting for them 100%. I want them to, improve their lives and think about something other than how society is going to end if they don't get enough sex. That would be fantastic. That would be better for everybody.
Where can people
Hoping for the bright future.
Where can people find you, Miss Diane?
Twitter is probably the best place. So,
Okay, I got a link to
real
her
Diane
Twitter.
Yap.
Right, it's great. Enjoyed having you on. We're gonna move you both out now. I'm gonna talk to Tali a little bit for the last 5 or 10 minutes here, but hope to have you on again. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome.
Okay. Thoughts, Tali? So, I guess before we get into that, I know I'm interacting. I just asked you a question. Now I'm interrupting. This is going to be a regular segment on the show. Me and Diane, not Diane, me and Tali have talked. Okay, and I know, it's terrible.
I'm gonna be Diane forever now.
I guess so. But we're gonna be working together on either a weekly or bi-weekly show where we do a show like this where we have two people on from different sides of the perspective, and we co-host and talk and have a interesting discussion where we both have input and things like that. Hopefully you like the format. We're trying it out. But I think she does well. But what were some of your thoughts of this whole conversation, Tali? Give us what you got.
I thought this was great. Like I said, when we started out, I was worried that there was too much agreement and that we weren't going that this wasn't going to be a real debate. But I mean, I think I think Diana is great. I think she's a hoot. I think
I agree she's great, but we probably think she's great for different reasons.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. I guess like I'm sympathetic to the fact that I think there's a lot of whining going on amongst a certain group of men, especially men on the internet. And I think that the disdain that she does have for that group of men, and maybe that's the same disdain that I share, perhaps, is the same disdain that I have for like whiny women, frankly. And I do think this is like a bit of a, overcompensation, the pendulum swinging too far in the opposite direction. I don't think the men that are commenting to Diane all the time are actually representative of all men, but I think it's interesting how much pushback there was to some of these conversations about sexual drives and things like this, because
What surprised you the most, pushback wise, from the audience? I'm assuming you're reading chat and things like that.
I'm not reading chat, actually.
Oh,
I
well,
haven't.
that's gonna be
I
part of your job as a co-host from now on, to kind of keep an eye on chat a
yeah,
little
I
bit,
know. I
right?
need
But
to.
fine.
Yeah, I need to keep the YouTube open.
Okay, but
Um,
for the super chats that were read, or maybe from what Zerse said or what I said, what pushback surprised you?
Maybe it was just the language, but just this idea that like if men are if we claim that men's primary motivation or perhaps underlying motivation is sexual in nature, that's somehow dehumanizing. I guess like I sort of understand where you're coming from with that, but I think the fact that we are animals and this is like mammalian behavior is, for
It's
me as an
usually, you understand, it's
ex-feminist.
usually an insult when someone is called an animal.
Yes. However, maybe the reason I see this differently is because for me, as like an ex-radical lefty, former, like feminist, it was understanding evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology that gave like that I feel like freed me from some of the resentments that I had about the material differences between men and women, right? And all the things that are associated with that. And so I think like it shouldn't be shocking at all that men are primarily that many men are highly motivated by sex, and I think it's probably not just the sex, right? The men are motivated by sex part due to the high levels of testosterone running through their body, and because sex is a proxy for reproduction, right, and family starting and all of these things.
I
So I don't see why it's that crazy
I
to
think that
concede even.
you might understand it if we like did a gender swap when we talked about these things, and then I started, or someone in the audience, or someone was started talking about, like, yeah, women are just there to have my babies, right? That's their only function. That's their only value, right? That's really all they're for. What opinions?
Of
No,
course, I
they're all
didn't say
there
that.
just to get
Neither
in the
did
kitchen,
Diane.
barefoot, pregnant, and that's it, right? You understand, well, like, because obviously we're all animals and our goal is to procreate, so why not just keep them home, right? You understand how that's dehumanizing?
Um, y yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So do
maybe
you understand that
so
when you talk about men in the same way,
let me
it could come
sure,
across as
sure, sure,
also dehumanizing?
sure. Come here, Wick. Let me validate you. I maybe I'm quibbling with the word dehumanizing because I don't see that really as dehumanizing, but yes, like, I I take issue with the logical leap at some, and the thing is, like, the example that you gave, there are non-insignificant number of men who are basically saying this. Um, Even, like,
We
prominent,
fight those men.
well-respected men. Yeah, well, who just believe, right, that, like, women really aren't fit, women shouldn't be working, whether that's because they believe that, because of some biological and cognitive differences that women aren't suited to it, or because they
They're
feel
dried up.
like,
Their womb's dried up. Why do I care, right? She's 35. She can't have kids. I don't care. Why should we value that woman, right?
So, to be fair, I don't think that Diane was even talking about value judgments, especially if she's talking about
Well,
just
I
sex
did
being a
ask her about value
motivator.
during the conversation. Like, that was one of the
Yeah.
questions I asked, and I think, is
She
she
and she
autistic?
struggled with that one.
Is she autistic? I don't know.
I've called her autistic to her face before. I don't know if she's diagnosed autistic. Um, but that's one of the reasons I really like
I
her.
would
And
not be
in fact, before she
surprised if she
was,
was, but I don't know. I mean, people usually
yeah,
use that
no,
as an insult, but I'm not. I would
no,
not be shocked if she's like, "Oh yeah, I was autistic." I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean,
she, yeah,
tracks.
I described her. when she came on my podcast, I described her that way to her. I was like, I see you as like right wing, but in an autistic way, basically, right? Where it's just like you say things that are like would be considered sort of like controversial or right wing or edgy, but she seems to just be like without not even necessary. She doesn't seem like she's trying to be inflammatory, and perhaps even without concern for like the social
Hold on.
backlash.
Like
I
she
found
said
her-
at the end, I do it because it gets my like. How is that? Okay,
Yes.
you have to recognize she knows what she's doing. She's not stupid.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And again, I compared her to Richard Hanania, right? I think this is sincerity with a character troll, and that's what makes it so effective. So I don't think she's lying. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like I said, I found her on the internet when she was talking more about like race stuff and IQ and crimes and all of these other things. And so this is just the new thing that she's just willing to say the I don't know, crazy thing. But again, I guess where I came down to is I don't think the things that she's saying were so crazy. I think the middle ground is like we don't need to feel disdain because of these things, and we don't need to deny them.
So the
either.
reason why I would say that I don't know if I'd use the word crazy, but I will say this. Zerse came off looking as the reasonable, moderate person in this discussion. If that is happening, well, something something has gone wrong. That's all
Yep.
I'm saying. I like Zerse, and Zerse's like we're buddies. But he's out
He
there.
seemed
sometimes. He's out
thoughtful,
there.
and he seemed to he didn't come across with disdain towards women, right? And I think again, what I find interesting about what Diane is doing, I do think she is holding up a mirror to a certain extent.
I think she's
she
baiting it. She's not holding up a mirror.
That's fair too.
She's seeking it out, but I like that because it generates content and it makes me money. I
It's
would
true.
be curious if she'd be willing to go on other people's podcasts, like Not So Erudite. I think I would watch a conversation between those two, or Stardust and her, right? Irrelevant wanted to come on, right? But I didn't. I knew with Zerse on there, if we added more, it just wouldn't work, right? And I didn't want to dogpile her because I didn't know her. I didn't know how she would respond. Well, let me ask you this: do you think she had fun? Could you tell?
Yeah, I do, and that's the thing too. So back to the question of is Diane autistic? This is the thing too. Like, what makes her such an interesting participant in this conversation, and not literally this stream we did here, but this sphere, right? This polarization in both directions that's happening right now, is that she's not the typical man hating woman. That makes sense. Like she's not the whiny feminist. She's like I've
She comes at
described
it
her
from
as
a
sort of
different
male.
angle. That's true. Mostly,
She's
there's
sort
a
of
few
male
that are
brained herself.
old hat, right? But $20.
Right, she
Sorry, no,
So
finish
sorry,
your thought,
yeah.
and then I'll read the super chat.
Sure, yeah, no, she's like a kind of like math and science brained, very not easily offended. Yeah, like honest kind of person. I do think she had fun, and I think like to her credit, yeah, these things don't shake her.
I like
really.
that she could hang, right? I like that she could hang.
Yeah.
That's always good. Unfortunately, not everyone we've had on the show can hang. Okay, sometimes they can't.
I bet
$20.
people rage quit.
Yes. $20 from Alexander Rin to say, at Tali, the difference between us is that when someone dehumanizes women as sandwich makers and walking wombs, we attack them. When someone does something similar to men, you seem to provide reasons why it might be true. How do
What
you
I was
answer the
trying to say is
charge,
that it's
Tali?
Yeah. So I appreciate that you confront those men who say that. I do think like now I'm back to channeling Diane, those are not really one-to-one. So Diane wasn't saying all men are good for is sex or X, Y, or Z. She's saying there's a lot of men who are claiming that this is their underlying motivation. And by the way, so I wasn't saying there's this horrible thing about men and I think it's true and I'm making excuses for it. I'm saying I think this is neutral, like literally neutral, and not something that needs to be shamed or seen in a negative light. I don't think it's great. Like, and by the way, so I think it's obvious, and you pointed this out. Diane is obviously a minority. She's obviously an exception, being a woman who would be completely comfortable entering into a sexless relationship, essentially, right? So I think women are also motivated by sex and intimacy, not to the same extent, but again, I think these are biological differences that are common among many species of animal. And I'm saying that in a like I don't think I hope that it comes across that I'm not putting a negative valence on this, truly.
What I think because again, I want to make this clear. I like Diane. I think she's neat. Probably for the wrong reasons, but I do. I like different. I like interesting, right?
Yeah.
And she is that. But I think the most frustrating part of the conversation was during the PDF file section.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was a skill issue on her part or if she was just trolling or what. But me and Zerse both kept giving like, hey, what I felt were pretty reasonable reasons why you shouldn't like jump down someone's throat if like a 17-year-old, right? If you saw a 20-year-old man go up and he's on the beach and he sees what he thinks is an 18-year-old girl, but turns out to be a 17-year-old girl, we should be like, okay, as long as when he finds out, he disengages. That's fine, right?
She wouldn't concede intentionality there being like the critical thing, right? Like, what were your intentions and what did you believe?
Well, she
she
kept trying to suggest, and I feel like this is where the Twitter tie-in comes in. I think she's been brain rotted by Twitter. Is it that a lot of men are doing this as like a trick, as just like an excuse, like a plausible deniability that, oh, well, I just, right? But like she kept extending it to like crazy examples of like 8 years old. Like obviously any man who is over 18 who's hitting on it, or even under 18, right? Anyone who's hitting on an 8-year-old, right? Crazy and wrong and disgusting. And society should treat them as such. The law should treat them as such. And now we could talk about like what's the proper punishment for these things. This is a whole nother discussion, right? But it's obviously negative. It's also obviously bad. It's obviously something we don't want in society. But she kept like like a dog with a bone, right? She was hanging on to this point, and she wouldn't let it go despite all evidence, arguments, or anything. And that I think that to me,
I think it was her
the most
weakest
frustrating.
point.
Yeah. It was the most frustrating.
I completely agree with you, especially because I am the person who like I also will chime in with saying, well, actually, pedophilia is technically prepubescent, right? And then there's hebephilia and all these different things. So I think those things matter because they're interesting and because they are different in ways that we can measure, right? So there are sexologists who will literally like measure like penile erections and stuff like that, and it actually does. You can actually find like discrete. That's not what I was trying to do. You can find like discrete developmental periods that men are attracted to, and in smaller numbers women, but even the number of men that this applies to is a tiny, it's a really small portion of men. We're talking under 5% of men. So yeah, I thought that was the weakest part of the argument. And I agree with you completely. It's interesting actually. I didn't interrupt too much during that time. But like I was someone who looked older when I was young, and I wanted to look older when I was young. And so I think that could potentially be like a big personality difference, like a difference in disposition there that is impacting how we view these types of situations. I wanted attention. I wanted to look older. I wanted to be perceived as older.
When I was younger, when I was like 11 years old, I first ventured on the internet. And I would tell people in chat rooms, like, again, I'm old, so remember, these are AOL chat rooms. No anything, no block feature, no nothing, right? Okay? And I would tell people I was 18 at the
First
time.
thing you do is ASL.
Yeah, because I wanted to be seen as older. I wanted to be seen as mature. And frankly, when I was going through puberty, I wanted to see the boobies of older women. And I would lie to the, and this is not good, gang. I'm saying this in a humorous fashion, but it is absolutely terrible that I did this, right? But when I was like 12, 13, and pretending to be 18, and having some 19-year-old woman send me pictures of her, right? Because I was 12 years old, right? It's putting her in danger. That's a horrible thing to do. But I'd imagine
You were younger than
right,
her. Be gentle with yourself, Wick.
I'm just saying, but I think that this happens, right? That there are, I'm imagining I'm not the only person who did that, who did that. I've talked to women
I did that.
I've talked to women who pretended like to be older than they were because they were wanting to be more adult, right?
Yeah.
It's a problem. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I did that my whole life until now. Now that I'm in my 30s, right? Now is the only time that I don't feel the need to make myself sound older. But yeah, since I'm on the same page, literally in the chat rooms. Yeah, wanting sexual attention too. So I think that it makes sense to me that would really influence the way that you see this question. I wonder too, there is like a cultural thing going on there because my understanding there can be some type of fetishization of like East Asian women because of typically they're at the average build of an East Asian woman, less voluptuous, more youth-like, right? So there's an aspect of fetishization of Asian women for looking young, and so this also could be something that like plays into the way that she's viewing this conversation. But I really do agree with you. That was the weakest part of the conversation, in my opinion, because the rest of it, I was really having fun with what she was saying, and trying to discern just how much she believed what she was saying. But yeah, I thought that was a fun conversation.
I did too. I thought it was great content. Gang, if you like this kind of content and you want us to do more of this, and we're going to, whether you like it or not, right? But if you have suggestions for guests, if you have suggestions for topics, join the Discord. Follow both of us on Twitter, right? DM either one of us, and just DM us ideas. Also, what we are looking at, I'm going to crowdsource this a little bit, and obviously we have veto power. We need a name for this segment. What's a good show name for this segment? If you have real good ideas, if you have real interesting thoughts on this, let me know, please. I would love to hear your input because names are the final boss. I'm very bad with names. Wyan? No, not for this particular segment, but for this style of segment. This is a format that we're going to be doing for until it doesn't work anymore, right? Frankly. Two idiots talk shit. Maybe. Call it the culture war. That's taken, I think. But yeah, get your thoughts in. Is there anything else you want to say before we call it a night?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that done. That said, we love you all. I'm going to call it a day. Wait, bye everyone. I'll see you guys Monday at 6 p.m. Bye.
Bye, guys.